What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace episode 157 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. We're here on a Friday night. Hope you guys have had a great week. Hope you're going to have a great weekend. You're ready to kick up your feet and relax a little bit. We have to wait a couple more hours to do that, but we're here to deliver a great show for you guys this week. Several big games have been released. Actually, a couple of them just came out today. Matt and I have been playing them, and we're going to discuss those with you guys. Some housekeeping stuff. First of all, I want to talk about our Patreon. Slowly over the last weeks, we've been transforming our Patreon. It's pretty much done at this point. We have all our new goals set up in there. We have all our new tiers set up in there. All that stuff doesn't turn over until March 1st. So right now, if you look at like our new tiers, some of them say like 0 patrons. But obviously, when the month turns over, those of you who are pledging at certain levels will automatically get slotted into those new tiers. So go check it out. Patreon.com/sifted. A couple little things left. We're still getting ready to put up the brand new welcome video. A couple small touches to get done before the end of the month, but none of that stuff matters until March 1st. So go give it a look. Let us know your feedback in the comments. A lot of the changes that we made, a lot of the decisions we made were forged in the Sifted Summit. So you guys had a lot of input on what we're doing going forward. But anyway, hope you guys are happy with that. Some more housekeeping. So we've been hitting a string of birthdays. Last week was my birthday. Yesterday was Matt's birthday. Happy birthday, Matt Kyle.
Hooray.
And next week is Sam's birthday. So we hit them all like right in a row. So unfortunately, we're probably...
And Pactor's birthday was the week before yours.
Right, and Pactor's was before mine. Yeah, Sifted, bang, 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 right in a row. So we may not have a show next week. Unfortunately, Matt is leaving at the end of the week next week to go on a trip and to have some fun. Sam is doing his birthday stuff at the beginning of the week, so there's maybe a chance we could slide in like a special episode of GameFace. It probably wouldn't be streamed live. It would probably be something we pre-recorded.
Probably just be us talking about Crackdown.
Yeah. But in all honesty, it might be good for me to have a week to start getting a lot of the things that our new Patreon is going to bring into motion. Because we're going to start producing stuff we haven't produced before. And it might be a good idea to just kind of get into the groove of doing that stuff. By now, you guys have already seen that the Big Six is back in rotation. That's great. Tokyo's been cutting those again. So things are shifting. Things are getting in motion for kind of the new era of Sifted, and I hope you guys are excited for that. So with that, let's get into the show. We got several big games we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct as well, which was gigantic. We're going to kick things off with Metro Exodus. This game actually came out a little bit before the other ones that we're going to talk about. Or wait, does it come out today, Metro? Also, the reviews.
All three of them came out today.
Okay, so the review embargo just hit a lot earlier for Metro than it did for the others.
Which is odd.
It is odd, yeah. I have not played a lick of Metro other than what I've experienced at trade shows. Matt, you've been playing it, but...
I played it for a couple hours, but I'm really more like an hour into it because it keeps crashing on me.
Yeah.
On the Xbox One X, I keep having like hard lock, like freeze, like start the game over thing. And since there's so much, early on, the first hour of the game is very railroaded. No pun intended, because there's trains involved. But like it's it's running you through sort of the story setup, and you don't have a lot of choice in what's happening. And part of that is you don't have quick save available to you. You just checkpointing as you go. And so because you have no control over that, there's like when it would freeze, it'd be like, well, the last checkpoint was like 10 minutes ago, and now I got to do all this stealthy stuff again. And like, it's which is fun, but it's just it was time consuming, and it only went live at like 9 last night, and I also kept defaulting back to Crackdown periodically. But
wow.
Like Crackdown is not
what?
Crackdown's not a festival of great gameplay or game decisions, but like I was just more in the mood for it than a slow creeping hide in the dark, survival shooter. It was just, but like, so I'm like, I think I'm right at the point where it kicks you out into the open world. Like I've been playing it, today since you got here, and nothing crashed. If the first time I played it, I didn't have to reboot anything. Yeah, for once, and so it's like I don't really have a lot of insight into the actual meat of the game because I haven't gotten to it yet. All I can say is like it plays very much like the other Metros. It's a slow, methodical survival shooter. It takes a page out of Thief, where you've got a little thing on your wrist that tells you whether you're in the light or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like you look at the wrist of your, because the character is always holding the gun up like this, and so you can see the little wrist cuff thing, and the wrist cuff thing has the countdown timer for your breath mask, because you have to wear a mask when you're above ground because things are radioactive, and there's a little timer countdown, and then once it runs out, it'll warn you, and you have to replace it with a new filter, which has been a staple of the series since the beginning. And there's a little light thing on it, and if you're in the light, it glows white, and if you're not, it gets dark. So that is how you know whether you can be. And if you're in the dark, at least so far, guys can't see you even if they're looking right at you, like 10 feet away. Like, you are invisible, basically, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it got easier once I realized that. I'm like, okay, so like as long as I'm in a shadow, no one can see me, basically. Unless they walk right into me.
So the creatures can't smell you?
There have been no creatures yet.
Oh.
Early on, the very first part of the game, there's creatures in the little subway tunnels you're in trying to get back to your home. But I have not had any kind of like freedom of movement stuff with monsters yet. This looks to me like the very beginning.
Yeah, the B-roll that we were running is from the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, so this kicks you into it.
So we're not spoiling much, folks. This is literally like we're going to show you the first 30 or 40 minutes of it.
You get kicked into this immediately, and then you get hurt, and they drag you back into the metro, and your father-in-law yells at you for going out, and because you keep going out. It's just you're playing the same guy as the other two games, whose name is some Russian thing I can never remember. Artoli or something.
I don't think I've ever learned how to pronounce it correctly.
I can't remember what it was. Artioli or something like that. Art. We'll call him Art. But he believes that there is, because the
this
premise
section is very Resident Evil 2-ish, though. You have this monster following you through the sewers.
Yeah, well, it's all a horde of them. Like it's just all these rat creatures. This is not what you come out to, really, though. In the actual game, what you do is you go through another door, and that thing where its head comes out and you stab it, but then like you get attacked by more, and a bunch of guys have to save you.
Oh, okay.
And they drag you in, and your father-in-law yells at you because he keeps going up, and he's trying to find other settlements or radio signals or signs of other human life, because one of the premise of kind of the early games in the books is like 50,000 people survived the nuclear war, and they're all in the Moscow metro, like surviving.
50,000 people in the world, or
that's what
Russia?
They think.
Okay.
That's what they They think 50,000 people survived by hiding in the underground metro in the Moscow area, and that's the world now. And because early on there were signals, but they never heard anything after a while, and so they just assume they're the only survivors left. But your character believes that there must be more, so he keeps going up to the surface and looking for clues or listening for broadcasts or whatever. And the big, the catalyzing incident here is that when you're up there with your wife, who is up there to support you, but you're not supposed to leave the place really, because you're using resources when you go up, get irradiated, and need a blood transfusion, right? So, but you're up there, and as you're going back, a train goes by. Which there are no trains in the metro world, and so you go and try to chase it, and to find out what this is, and you get there, and you basically get kidnapped by this like group that nobody knows what they are, and they take you out, and there's this old woman and this old couple who like basically we're from this village out east of Moscow, and they're like, and you're like, what? Like, how can? And they're like, oh yeah, there's people everywhere. It's like basically like, what's going on, and they leave you for dead, and kidnap your wife, and you sneak back in and get everybody back and break out and steal the train. But in the process, it turns out that there are jammers all around the perimeter of Moscow, and there's radio signal and chatter coming from all over the world. Like there are pockets of survivors everywhere, all over the world, and Moscow didn't know. Moscow has been intentionally isolated for some reason, and sort of the central mystery of the game so far is why are they doing that?
Okay.
And so
why is Moscow isolating itself?
Yeah, and it sounds like there's sort of a thing where it's like it's people,
Russia.
Yeah, basically, like it's like the war never ended. Just because nuclear war happened doesn't mean we're not still at war with everyone else. And so Moscow doesn't need anyone else, and it's very Russian. I mean, there's a scene where you're being attacked by another train, and like one of your Spartan buddies like goes. Yeah, they're like, we need someone to go over there and with this like basically this time bomb and blow it up, so we can get away. And one of the guys is like, I'll go, like let me go, and then the colonel guy goes, shut up, I am choosing the volunteers for this. And I'm like, I mean, choosing the volunteers, right. great phrase. I enjoy that. So so that kind of thing. But I have not played what you would call the Exodus is because
they're leaving the subway, right?
Yeah, but the Exodus is actually because you and your wife know about this. It turns out that some key people did know about that in your metro settlement, and now because you've technically betrayed everything, the penalty for that is death. But they don't want to kill you, so they're just going to exile you. Until the heat blows over, and so basically. It's an exodus because you're forced out of the metro tunnels because you discovered this thing, and so now I guess the idea is like let's explore this world that heretofore we thought was dead and uninhabitable, but apparently there's other stuff beyond the boundaries of the city that most people never found out because it's full of giant rat monsters and flying demons. I always enjoyed the kind of the bleak Russianness of this series, where like the idea was like, the world's basically over, like we can't do anything about it, like everything's radioactive, there's literal monsters flying around upstairs, but we're still gonna run around and kill them because we're not dead yet. It's just like, it's just that like, well, why should we let them, why should we roll over and die when we can just like, struggle on, struggle on and like scrape by, and it's like bleak but hopeful in a weird way. It's like a Tolstoy novel.
It always sounded like an interesting premise until I played the games.
Yeah, the games are very slow.
They're dour,
methodical.
Yeah,
they are. There's a lot of survival element to it.
That's actually what I want to ask. How intense are the survival elements? Is it like one of these things where you're constantly looking at your inventory and your meters to make sure that you're not low?
Well, I mean, it's like there's no meters really, except for the
watch or whatever.
The watch about like how long your filter lasts. So I don't know. So far, it's been if you get shot, sometimes the mask can get a hole in it and you have to like, patch it up. There's actually a trophy for that for some reason. The first time you do it. And like you have your med kits, there's a limited amount of everything, and you're limited pretty strongly, at least early on. Yeah, you can carry 5 of everything pretty much. But like I haven't really been running out of stuff, but like I'm playing on normal difficulty. It's clearly there's 2 difficulties above it, or maybe 3, and like it basically warn you like every the one above normal is like every bullet counts. Like don't you gotta be careful. And then there's like I think there's a difficulty called Reader, which is like there's no challenge. They're like, this is no challenge. Like if you don't want to play the game, basically, there's tons of ammo. Everything dies in one hit. You'll never die. Like it basically like play this Reader difficulty if you want to just sort of walk through the game. So they seem to have realized that there's sort of a barrier to entry in that regard. And then on the other side, there's I think a Ranger Hardcore, which like basically not only like limits everything but takes away a lot of your HUD stuff, like takes away a lot of your information stuff, so you basically have to play it by ear more.
Literally, probably.
Yeah. So it's so I haven't done anything like this with driving stuff around or seeing these these like out in the world like this. So it's just very, very early first impressions. It feels like Metro. I'm not really in the right frame of mind for it right now. It's a little tedious to me.
No, you do. I mean, that's what I was trying to get at. Actually, is that this is a franchise where you kind of have to be in the right frame of mind. It always sounds like a good idea, and then I go to play it, and I'm like, I don't want to play this right now. Yeah,
like that's definitely a way I felt about the older games, and especially it's hard when there's like, Crackdown is it's not the game of the year candidate or anything, but it's super easy to just pick up and just start blowing stuff up in. And like Far Cry, I haven't actually played Far Cry yet, but like the temptation was there for that too, because I knew you know exactly what you're getting from Far Cry. Yep. So I knew like, I could just pick up Far Cry, watch a dumb cutscene, and then instantly be like skinning raccoons. I could let's go.
Pretty accurate.
But I tried to stick with it, but it's really the crashes just were kind of. I'd finally kind of get into like, okay, I'm into the rhythm, and then it would crash, and I'd have to I'm just like, oh, Crackdown's right there. I'll just blow a few things. So it didn't. It didn't hook me early. I like what I'm seeing. Yeah, I see in like the footage like this, like where it's more of an open world kind of Mad Maxy sort of thing. We'll see how that goes. But the main thing I feel is like I don't feel very confident with the gunplay so far. Like you're just sort of running through corridors, shooting guys right now. It's very limited, but like none of the guns have really felt very snappy or very like, you know, I aim at the guy and I'm not entirely sure I'm going to hit him every time. Like you get throwing knives, which are useful for stealth stuff, but like sometimes I hit him in the chest and he dies. Sometimes I hit him in the chest and it bounces off. Like I'm not really sure what the you know, I feel like I have a lot to learn about the game in terms of how this works and that works. And like when you're trying to like burn through stuff so you can talk about it on the show the next day, like the patience is just not there.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I have to deal with it every week. You're playing on Xbox One X, correct? Yeah. How is the performance
fine
on X?
I mean, other than the freezing, it runs pretty smooth. It looks very nice. Doesn't look as good as I've watched a couple videos of the PC version. Of course, it doesn't look that good.
Yeah,
but it looks solid. Like it's I don't know if it looks as good as that first trailer we saw at E3 that year, but it looks very nice, and the shadows are well done, and the lighting is well. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, you almost don't need the glowing thing on your wrist. Like you know when you're in the light of thing and stuff like that. And everything's got just this, you know, beat down, worn, rusted, industrial look to it, and the weapons are cool because all the weapons are mostly like kind of improvised, cobbled together, like weird, like, you know, homemade things, and they all look really neat and sort of, you can tell like, you know, what they use to make each thing to some degree, and it's like the detail's really impressive visually. So I'm happy with it visually. Sound-wise, it's a little weird. The mix is strange.
No, I could tell that sitting here, setting up for the show while you were playing it in the living room.
The voices are mixed real low. In comparison to the sound effects, and there's no option in the menu to change that. Like there's a master volume and there's a music volume, but there's no voice versus sound effects volume shift like sliders. Yeah. So I turned the master volume all the way up, but the characters are, because I think they're using some sort of like, you know, proximity thing where like if you're a certain distance from a character, you know, the characters are louder or quieter depending on whether you're close to them.
Which makes sense.
But like they're too quiet when they're like conversation distance away. So like you'll have like cut scenes where like the guy talking to you is standing like 6 feet away from you, but you can barely hear him in the mix because that's too far for like the game. The fall off of the sound like is too sharp.
Right.
And so and of course a lot of the dialogue is between people with thick Russian accents wearing gas masks on trains, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, and I hate turning the subtitles on for things because I find it distracting and breaks immersion.
I never play with subtitles.
We are weird, apparently.
I know.
Most
if
people
you watch
use
people
subtitles.
who stream, they all use subtitles.
Well, I understand that because people can't always watch your stream with sound on.
Yeah.
Or you're talking over it and people might still want to follow the game, and so you can read the subtitles while the streamer is talking. I get that. But like, when I'm just playing it for myself, I would never turn subtitles on, and I know that apparently, from what I've seen on polls and stuff and Twitter threads, like most people who play games do turn subtitles on.
I am surprised by that. They don't watch movies with subtitles, I'm guessing.
A lot of them do, but part of it is the people I know who play games with subtitles all the time but don't watch movies with subtitles, they specifically say it's because they don't trust the sound mix in video games.
Oh.
That I don't want to miss any dialogue, and sometimes you just hit that point where like suddenly the sound mix in the game didn't work here and I didn't understand what was said and I can't go back to see it again, so I missed it. My philosophy on that is like, yes, that happens sometimes, but it's very, very rare in a video game that any little individual piece of dialogue is so important that you're going to need to hear.
Or they'll also just go to the mission briefing and it'll tell you what you need to do.
So yeah, that's my one like technical complaint beyond the crashing is like I find the sound mix to be very odd, and the voice you really needs a way to pump the voices up because I can't hear what people are saying. That may be a lesser concern once you get to the open world stuff and there's not as much cutscene stuff happening. But it's been a problem so far, which is almost never an issue for me. Like even when the mix is pretty sketchy, usually my surround sound will isolate the voices in the center channel enough that I can hear what's going on. But a couple times here, I just have no idea.
So these are really initial impressions. Do you think you're going to find yourself continuing to play this when there's all these other games that you could be playing instead?
Well, that's a good question. I feel like I will probably come back to it after I get my fill of kind of the dumb action games, like probably. Because look, Crackdown's going disturbingly quickly. Like I've only played that game for probably like 3 hours, and
you're like halfway done then.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Like it's a little weird how fast that's going.
Yeah, we're actually not we are, but we're not talking about Crackdown on today's episode because Microsoft never sent it to us. After repeated attempts to get the game and getting kind of a different excuse every time. And then the last time...
really want that Game Pass subscription out of you.
Yeah, and then the last time was just like, let me check on that for you, and then nothing. Radio silence. And now that you're seeing the reviews, there aren't many reviews out there for the game.
No, not too much.
It was like the big three websites pretty much put up their reviews at embargo, and nobody else did. So
my take... I mean, I've only played a few hours of Crackdown, but my takeaway is like, what took 7 years?
I know, it's insane.
Like, it's just Crackdown again. I do like the look of it. I love the drenched neon. It's super sharp and super, like the HDR is working it. It looks really cool, but it's just Crackdown. It's just Crackdown again.
It's been getting hammered.
Yeah,
hammered. Its Metacritic average is like 5 point something.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Metro has been getting pretty solid reviews.
I've been kind of
higher
surprised.
than I thought. Yeah.
It's like an 81 or an 82 right now.
Yeah. I thought I might regret picking it, but I don't.
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
okay.
Good. Yeah. Wow. But anyway, so yeah, Metro Exodus. I'm sure we'll talk about it again once I've played.
Once I get a chance to play it as well.
But my initial impressions are like, if the other ones didn't do it for you, this is probably not going to hook you. But if you want it, I do like kind of like what they're doing, where the series. I mean, both the books and which I've only read the first two, but both the books and the games have been very folded in, sort of. We're in the tunnels, we're in the corridors, a little bit up top, but then we're in the kind of, And the fact that they're sort of, being familiar enough with the series, like when that train drove by, I was like, what the hell? It was a shock. It was a shock to me as much as the characters, because I'm like, I know that world pretty well, and the fact that there's a moving train
it's a big
was
deal.
Like, what? And so like as the world sort of expands, like the thing that I'm most being, what would pull me into it at this point is going to be, wow, what's it like out there? Which is good, because it's the same motivation as the main character. When your motivation to play the game lines up with why the main character's doing what they're doing, that's when
that's a good
these
thing.
Things,
yeah,
that's when someone did something right.
Yep, absolutely.
And so I'm interested to see how how this sort of game and their take on this sort of world works once you take it out of these sewers. Get out of the sewers. Everyone in video games, get out of the sewers. Move on. Although it is, again...
that's what this game was about, though.
Right.
The franchise was about it first.
It's called Metro.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so I'm curious. It also maybe is kind of an interesting counterpoint to, Rage 2.
Yeah.
Where, Rage 2 and this are both sort of open-world takes on this, kind of, broke-down, horrible, post-apocalyptic world that's been kind of running for a while. There's sort of there's an element of, you didn't know about it in Metro, but clearly, there's an organization. People are working with each other. There's a plan. People have settled in places. There's villages. There's So you're sort of seeing this post-apocalyptic world having, settled into its routine a little bit. People have kind of dug out little niches. And Rage 2 is sort of doing a similar thing because it's been so long since the end of the world there. But Rage 2 is kind of this crazy adrenaline-fueled neon blastathon where this is
the thoughtful
horror. Yeah, this is the War and Peace of open world post-apocalyptic 2019 shooters, if you will. That's just a Russian joke, isn't it? Yeah. But there is sort of this self-seriousness about it in some ways that might appeal to someone more if you're not into just men in gas masks shooting neon paint at each other.
Yeah. So there's people sitting there right now saying, "Okay, should I buy it?"
I don't know. If this is the kind of thing, they definitely seem to have taken it in kind of a stalker direction.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get from it too. Yeah.
So if that's the kind of thing that appeals to you, I feel like it's at least worth looking into. But I haven't played enough of it to know whether somebody should spend $60 on it or not.
Yeah.
My initial impressions are like oddly unstable technically because of the crashing.
I don't know if you remember this or not, but I said my concerns with this game was the poor quality of the prior games in the franchise.
Now, I haven't seen too many people complaining about like stuff like that.
Yeah, I haven't either. Like hardly any of the reviews mention crashes.
No, so that might just be a me thing. I don't know what that is.
Which makes no sense, but
well, you never know what causes this. It could be because I have an external USB hard drive and it's installed on that, and a certain amount of space is left, and that amount of space happens to be the one that triggers that this instability. It could be anything. It could, you never know with this kind of stuff. But like, so you might just get more lucky than I did, and it seems to have stopped now because I got through about an hour while you were here without anything like that happening.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're gonna keep playing it.
I'm gonna keep going. When we come back, whenever we come back, I'm sure that I will have more impressions of the actual open world meat of it.
Yep.
And we'll see.
All right.
It's not usually my kind of thing, but like I do like the atmosphere and kind of the world of Metro. So I'm trying to go in with a more open mind, whereas normally I would be more survival shooter.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that subgenre.
It's just like, here's a thing you like to do, but we're going to add a lot of tedious things that prevent you from doing it in a regular amount. It's like I've never played Doom and been like, this is great. But I sure wish every once in a while it would stop and make me tinker with my gun.
Right.
It's just, it's not a thing that, it's not a thing I've ever wanted in a shooter. But like, I get that there's an appeal to it. I did like the Stalker games once I modded them into Oblivion.
I never really did.
It took me like 3 or 4 tries to get into the first Stalker. But once I kind of got the rhythm and understood what I was trying to do in it, and what it wanted me to do, I thought it was pretty great.
I mean, this game's really like Stalker now.
There's a lot of that to it.
Yeah, it's almost like the spiritual successor.
Yeah, they even call each other Stalkers a couple times. I mean, I'm sure that's a reference. It's also based on an outside.
Yeah, maybe that's a good way that we could guide people on this game until we have more fleshed out opinions. Is that if you liked Stalker games or did not like Stalker games in the past, you may want to pick this up or steer clear.
Yeah, like it's not going to be, a replacement for Far Cry.
Yeah.
Far Cry is a much lighter.
Absolutely,
It's a lighter, bouncier game.
Which is weird to say because Far Cry is pretty dark at times.
Well, Far Cry thinks it's pretty edgy. That's true. But like Far Cry,
a lot of the humor in Far Cry is unintentional, I think.
Yeah, Far Cry doesn't make you tinker quite as much.
Yeah.
Far Cry, I mean, maybe.
Well, we'll talk about the new Far Cry here in a little bit. There are some changes and tweaks to it.
Yeah. So it's interesting, kind of the level. I mean, you have Crackdown, which is just the most shallow blastathon imaginable. You've got Far Cry, which is sort of like this nice middle ground of like, okay, there's an open world, there's things to do. You got to do some. Maybe you can craft a few things or some stuff. And you got Metro, which is like you are going to need to concentrate.
Yeah. All right, so we'll have more fleshed out opinions of the game as we get to play it a little more, but we wanted to at least kind of put something in your ear before you make that big decision over the next 24 hours. I know a lot of you guys may be looking for something to play over the weekend. So a lot of the games we're talking about today are stuff that just came out today, so hopefully we can help you in some way. But next, we're going to talk about games that aren't coming out today or tomorrow, but a lot of them are coming out pretty soon, and that is the latest Nintendo Direct. Just happened about 2 days ago. The initial word on that was going to be Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and what was the other thing? The Metroid Prime trilogy was supposed to be in there. And
I did not expect that.
I kind of thought maybe after the Metroid Prime 4 delay, I'm like, they'll throw us a bone.
Nintendo, when Nintendo has to do something that they consider bad or negative, they just don't talk about it for 6 months.
But we ended up getting way more than people expected. Yeah. Way more. So we did get the Fire Emblem 3 Houses. We'll get to that. But hands down, the biggest announcement was a Switch remake of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Mm-hmm. And I will just say that Link's Awakening is in my top 2 2D Zelda games. So I'm a huge fan of it. And I know you've talked about it before, you don't like it.
I like it. I just don't understand why people worship it the way they do. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it when it came out. It was just shock. It was a little shocking to me to get on the internet years later and find out that like
most people think it's the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think it's the best. I think most people now think Link to the Past is the best.
Yeah.
But I would say when I was posting,
Link to the Past is my favorite.
When I was posting on Rec Games Video Nintendo, consensus seemed to be that Link's Awakening was better than Link to the Past, which I always thought was literal insanity. But it's a very well-regarded game. And then it got another boost of well-regard when it came out on the Game Boy Color,
right?
Which was a very good.
That's when I played it for the first
port
time.
/ remake.
Yeah, I never had an original monochromatic Game Boy. So the first time I played it was the Game Boy Color version.
I mean, to be fair, I knew exactly what it was in the first shot of that trailer. I'm like, oh, well, Link's Awakening.
Yeah, him on the ship. I mean, it's iconic.
And I will say, I wish the game looked like those cutscenes.
We're a little more anime-ish.
We're a little more. I mean, the claymation look is it's fine.
Is it fine?
It's not my preferred.
Is it fine?
Thing. I'm not a giant fan of it.
I don't like the art style of the in-game stuff.
No, it's I love this. This looks great.
I mentioned this on SIFTD that I feel like Link looks like the elf that wanted to be the dentist from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He's going to walk around with his little pliers and a missing tooth. Maybe you get an abominable snowman sidekick at some point. There's a lot
of cameos in this game.
It
might.
Well, that's one thing about this is that this is the first Zelda that incorporated stuff from Mario and the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah.
So there's Chain Chomps, there's Womps, I think.
There's Womps. Wart is in it.
Yeah.
The boss of Mario 2. But in the end, it makes sense because this game is a dream.
Right.
And Mario 2 is a dream.
Yep.
So it's all
bets are off.
It's all connected.
It does appear that they've...
That fucking owl.
I like the owl. It does appear...
Ocarina made me hate the owl.
Really?
Well, because there's that thing where right before you got to Hyrule Field, and the owl talks to you, and he says, did you understand? You get all that? And, you're trying to get through it so you can run out and do the thing. But, the default place the cursor is on the option that makes him repeat his whole speech.
Oh, right.
It's a famous point where you're just trying to get through it and you accidentally hit the button too many times.
You keep going
and
a loop.
It's I'll tell you again. And it's no, I just want to get out of the frickin' woods.
Yeah, the art style to me, I mean, I like that it appears to be a one-to-one replication.
Yes.
It looks like every room's going to be the same, the bosses are going to be the same, the characters, the story, everything's going to be the same. I think that's great. But yeah, the graphical style to me just does not... I mean, it's basically like The Legend of Zelda Let's Go.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the art style, but it's not going to stop me from
Yeah,
playing
me either.
it.
I mean, I'm going to play it. It doesn't look like... Here's my problem. It doesn't look like a Nintendo game. It looks like this game is being developed out of house by someone else. I don't know if that's the case, but it does not look like a Nintendo developed game to me. I don't know why. Maybe there's some subliminal thing about Nintendo's art.
Sort of. It looks a little bit like it reminds me of a mobile knockoff.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah. It could be developed in China or something.
But I will say that I think the most significant thing about this is that it's not for the 3DS.
Right. Yeah.
If you wanted proof that they're finally embracing the Switch as their sole system, I'd say it's the fact that this is on the Switch and not 3DS.
Yeah, there's no 3DS version coming at all. Even though this last week, Nintendo said that it's not giving up on 3DS and it's going to keep pushing games for it and creating games for it. But I think what we're seeing, though, is what we talked about years ago on GameFace, which was if Nintendo could ever get to a place where it unified its development pipeline and could just have all its studios working with one pipeline, creating games with that same backbone, it could produce a lot more games. And this is what we're seeing. What struck me the most about this Direct is how many games they showed that were announced for the first time, and how many of those games are coming this year.
Yeah.
In 2019.
Most of them in the first half.
All of them, I think.
Yeah, clearly they're not talking about Pokemon Gen 8 or Animal Crossing or Luigi's Mansion 3. that seems like those are latter half of the year games, and we'll hear about them at E3. But like, they it's no secret that 2018's release schedule was pretty anemic unless you were into ports of ancient games that you'd already played, or like paying $15 for a mobile game that's free to play on a phone.
Right.
But this, like, you gotta, even if you're not into everything, like, you gotta look at what they, after this direct, you gotta look at that schedule and be like, no, that's solid.
This year's shaping up to be pretty amazing, in all honesty.
There's something worthwhile, every month, twice a month, like, and stuff coming out of Nintendo themselves, not just like,
it's first party
weird
stuff.
Random stuff that like oh, we got to port it. There are still
there's
ports,
that coming too, yeah.
But like there's solid Nintendo content all through, and not just stuff where you're like, well, you have to like it because it's Nintendo. It's like, well, no, I don't want to play a cardboard piano. Like, I'm saying, I don't care about the Kirby game, but like it's already a better lineup, I think, than last year's was. Is it as good as the year we got a full Zelda and a full Mario game?
That'll probably never be.
Probably not. But it's like, but you don't need to do that every year.
Yeah.
You didn't even do it last year. Last year,
if you did, it would start to lose its impact.
Right. And last year they had record.
We're going to talk about a game in a little bit that I feel like is getting a little bit of.
Last year they had record-setting sales even without a very strong lineup. So this.
What's going to happen this year?
Well, it's also because like you get strong sales in the second year, in part because people have discovered the system and want to have one, and then third year is kind of the point where you really got to have the content to drag people in that didn't instantly adopt or didn't like get interested just out of curiosity. Now you got to pull people in with like that software, and it's also good because software sales is what this system does.
Yeah.
The attach rate on this thing is crazy.
It is insane. Yeah.
So it seems like they've recognized that, and they've made a concerted effort. Nintendo's made a concerted effort to make that release schedule sing a little more, and it looks like it's working.
Yeah. Let's start running through some of this stuff because there's a lot to get to. Super Mario Maker 2.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've been expecting this since. I mean, I almost thought this would be a launch title for this system.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it in this direct, and I definitely did not expect that it would be coming out this summer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
What was it? 2015, the first Super Mario Maker? No, it was later than that. 2016, I think.
Was it? It was either end of 2015 or in 2016 somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, so a few years. But here's the thing. I'm not seeing a lot about this that really convinces me that I need to buy it after owning the first Super Mario Maker.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the trick, though, is like those of us who do own it on the Wii U are kind of unicorns at this point.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Like,
I mean, Wii U owners are unicorns.
Yeah, like that. Well, that's what I mean. It's like you don't need to make it, something like unbelievably new, because it's almost an advantage in that, you can just kind of assume that most people don't have the Wii U version of things.
Of anything.
Yeah.
Like
it's and even if it is, it's like, I think a lot of people who did have the Wii U version of these things are going to be happy to have a version that they can carry forward onto modern hardware. The Wii U is a complex, mix of like console and gamepad. That gamepad's going to break one day. Yeah. And you won't be able to replace it, at least not for a reasonable amount of money. And better to just carry this stuff forward and save them from kind of the dust heap of an abandoned system. If you want to slap a 2 on it, fine. I really liked Mario Maker. I didn't make a lot of stuff in Mario Maker, but I did enjoy like just playing stuff. So I'm happy to see that come in.
Yeah, I honestly, I wasn't a big fan of Mario Maker in general. I mean, I fiddled around with it for a couple days making stuff. Took even as great as the interface was, it still to me took way too long to make stuff. And then I felt like the filtering options for the user-created stuff weren't good enough, and because a lot of it was dependent upon users voting stuff, and most of the stuff that bubbled up to the top were stuff where you didn't even play. It was like you just take one step forward and the whole level takes it over, and it's cool. Like the first couple of times you see that stuff, it's really cool to see all the planning and how precise the people had to be that made that stuff. But after that novelty wears off, I've talked a lot of times about how 2D side-scrolling platformers I just don't really care about all that much anymore. But there are some tweaks to Super Mario Maker 2. So you can create vertical scrolling levels, which you couldn't in the first one. And then there's just a bunch of extra parts, basically. Just little elements that they give you to help you kind of be a little more flexible with your level designs. But as someone who was not a huge fan of the first Mario Maker, from the perspective of playing it, creating it, or playing other people's creations, I don't have a lot of excitement for this. And, for the sake of our audience, most of the people in our audience who are Nintendo fans did own a Wii U and have played the first Mario Maker. I hear you, though, when you're talking about sales and what kind of revenue it's going to generate. We don't matter.
No.
It's the other people that make the big difference. But for our audience, the people who watch GameFace, whether on SIFTD or Patreon or YouTube or wherever, we have played Super Mario Maker. And I think for that audience, this game's kind of a hard sell.
I don't know about that. I don't think it's going to have any trouble selling.
What? We just talked about that. We just said, it's going to sell. But I think to the people who already played the first Mario Maker, there's not a lot being offered here to maybe convince them to double dip.
I don't really agree with that at all, frankly. Like, you're widening the audience, the community, the number of people that are going to build stuff. You're adding more stuff. You're putting it on a system that's not going to die in 2 years. I think there's plenty of appeal there for anyone who's interested in this kind of thing. If you're not already interested in Mario Maker, it's not going to change your mind. But I really enjoyed just like doing the kind of the roulette of whatever people had made. And that dried up after a while because
I just kept getting crappy stuff. It's like if I did that, it's like the levels were worse than the ones I was making.
Yeah, I didn't really have that experience with it. Like, sometimes you get just sort of the self-playing thing that plays like, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or whatever, stupid thing like that. But generally, I was pretty happy with most of those things. Sometimes I'd hit levels that were too hard.
And that was the other. That's what I was going to say. And either it was that or it was levels that were just so impossibly hard that I'd try them like once or twice and be like, okay, I'm not going to sit here for 3 days trying to solve your level, dude. Like,
but I do think it's and I think obviously they put it on 3DS because I do think it's a good idea for a pick up and play kind of handheld thing. But I didn't think the 3DS one was all that impressive, and this looks like a much more full featured thing. So it is a thing that I would like to have on my Switch.
Not me. I have very little interest in this at all. I mean, I hope people end up creating stuff with the new tools. It maybe changes my mind. But based upon what the new tools are, I just don't see that happening. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is a port of Super Mario Maker with, like, we kind of accuse Smash Brothers of being a Wii U port. This is way worse. I mean, you're literally getting, like, a handful of new objects to build with and vertical scrolling.
Yeah, but what's the alternative? Never make another Mario Maker game? I mean, that's what they're going to be. Like, there's only so many things.
Well, I think the alternative is you make a 3D Mario Maker game, so you can make 3D Mario games instead of 2D, and
now you're basically asking people to sign up for Full Sail at that point.
What do you mean Full Sail?
That's a much more complex thing.
No, it's just drag and drop, just like anything else. It's like I build ships in Kingdom Hearts 3 using a very simple interface. Like, it's not that hard.
I don't think the appeal is there for that in the way it is for this. Like, the 2D Mario thing is.
I get that, but they've already made it, is my point. They're releasing the same game again.
Yeah, but
with something that could just be a DLC pack that you pay $10 for.
Well, welcome to Nintendo. They don't do that, because it's so good at Smash Brothers in some ways. But
Smash is way more of an original game than this, though. Way more. They're not even in the same league.
Somewhat, but I mean, it's just bringing content forward that was on the failed system to put it on the system that's going to live.
Yeah, except they gave this a 2.
I mean, you could call it Switch, Super Mario Maker Switch. Yeah. I do think it's a little odd to number the Mario Makers.
Yeah, that is weird.
But I get
because it should be just a living. Maybe that's what's going to happen now. Is that it's going to be a living platform, and they're just going to have this base game, and they'll keep just adding DLC to it forever. But I don't know. It would be very hard for me to pay $60 for this game. Very hard. In fact, I would never do that. Never.
Well, I mean, I could say that about a lot of Nintendo games, but I don't know. Like, if it's the promise to me of the fact that this isn't going away anytime soon that is kind of the appeal. It's like, 2 years, 3 years from now, I could still turn this on, and there will still be new levels to play and new things in the community. Whereas with the Wii U, it was so close to the end of that system's existence that you never really got that. It's not like people just like abandoned Mario Maker as soon as the Switch got announced, but like, I felt like that game never got a chance to fully kind of blossom. You know what I mean? And I feel like it will on this system. So I'm more interested just because of that. I guess it's more of a potential thing. Which again could...
Don't get me wrong. I know it's going to sell like crazy.
Again, could argue that like maybe I don't want to pay $60 at launch. Maybe I wait a year and buy it, and then when everything's kind of already fleshed out online and there's tons of levels to choose from. There's no real bad time to buy this game.
You did make a good point, though. The fact that there are more Switch owners than there were Wii U owners should help with the user-created content. That's true. I definitely agree with that. So, next up, Tetris 99, another out-of-nowhere shocker, Battle Royale Tetris, online Tetris game.
Yeah, which, I mean, to be fair... It was one of those things where, like, I saw, I'm like, what, Battle Royale? That makes a lot of sense.
It does.
It was like a weird, like, sort of like I thought it was ridiculous when for a second, and then like my brain turned over and I was like, no, that actually, yeah, that's in hindsight really obvious.
Well, we also predicted that stuff like this was going to happen. We've talked about on GameFace about how eventually they're going to shoehorn Battle Royale into every genre.
Yep.
And here we go. We've both been playing this.
Yeah, I played a fair amount. Although, again, after about 10 matches, I'm like, yeah, I think I get it.
Yeah.
It's Tetris, and then you die.
It's a good thing it's free.
Yeah, free is the right thing. And I wonder if they're going to add more later, because there does seem to be an option for, like, the stats seem to imply that there are other modes, but there aren't.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine there's going to be more to this moving forward.
Now, is this free only for people who paid for Nintendo Online, or is it free for everybody?
I would imagine it's free for everybody, but I don't think you could play it without online.
Right, you couldn't play without Nintendo Online now.
That's all there is. It's just this mode.
Which is weird. Like, you couldn't just have, like, a single-player Tetris in there.
Well, then, I mean, you want to talk about repeating yourself. Like,
yeah,
everyone
but
has
why
Tetris.
not? I mean, it's like, why not just put it in there? It's like, now you have Tetris on your Switch. Like, it makes too much sense.
Yeah, it's a pretty good incentive if you don't have the online.
So how it works is... you basically play it like you're just playing Tetris. Like, you really don't realize that there's other people involved at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it depends if someone's targeting you. So, like, you can see the lines there being drawn. So, like, the line with the little green thing there indicates that that's where if you match lines, that's where the junk from your game is going to get dropped into that person's game. And then you've got you can see there's, not right now, or maybe it's covered by the graphic, but there's lines that go to your game board. Yeah, so no one's targeting you right now.
Of course not.
But but those people are dropping their junk onto your board. And sometimes you hit points.
Yeah, so when you clear blocks, they go to the other person's board that you have highlighted.
Yeah, you can see the gray ones at the bottom there are junk that has come from other people. Just like, that's how multiplayer Tetris has worked for pretty much forever.
Yep.
And of course, then the trick becomes as there's fewer and fewer people, there's more and more likelihood that you're going to get targeted by more than one person.
Yep.
And if you got more than one person throwing this stuff at you, you're dead.
Yeah, the game can spiral very quickly.
Yes.
Like, you can have a cleared board, and if a couple people dump their junk on you, suddenly it's all the way up to the top, and you're scrambling trying to place your blocks. So it's fun, but ultimately it still is just Tetris.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool permutation of it. It's sort of like, how often do you see something? I mean, I would say how often do you see something new done with Tetris, but we just had Tetris Effect last year.
Right.
So,
yep.
But it's one of those games that just doesn't, you can play with it, you can mess with it, you can tweak how it works and still keep it recognizably itself.
Yeah. Which
is kind of Tetris's great advantage, beyond the fact that everybody likes it.
Yeah.
Like, if you meet someone that doesn't like Tetris, you're like, what? It's like meeting someone that doesn't like animals or something. It's just like, what's wrong with you? Like, it's cool. Like, I like it.
What was your best finish?
Like 32 or something like that.
Mine's like exactly right there.
That's the best I am not any kind of Tetris master.
Me either.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Me either. The best I finished was 32 or 33, and
like some of these guys are really good.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to see, like, I'm sure they will, like, organize like a big tournament with like all the guys who can, like, play the game, like just instant drop.
Just drop
them, the guys who do like those tournaments where, like, it's just
insane to watch those people play.
Like 99. Are there 99 of those guys? Probably somewhere.
Yeah.
But that'd be fun to see.
But
esports.
Yeah, do you think you'll go back and play it again?
Yeah, I think this will be something I kind of go back and play periodically. Like it's not gonna be like an obsession or anything, but I like that I have it. I like that I can kind of just load it up. It'd be a fun thing if like people are over, like, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
And, like,
but see, that's where I think because the Switch is a handheld, I think having a single player version of Tetris in here makes too much sense.
Yeah, that's true, but I do think they're gonna add more.
Probably.
Forward.
There'll probably eventually be a single player or something or other. At least I hope so.
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty easy ad.
I mean, literally, it's probably like 2 bytes of code. Like.
Yeah, I mean, eventually. I mean, right now it's just it's for the people who subscribe to the online service, and eventually maybe you'll be able to buy like a non-free version that has more stuff.
That's possible.
Or like eventually they'll add it. Like you can you have it for free for the 99 mode, but like if you want to play like the other modes, you can pay $10 or something.
Is Tetris in the public domain now? Do you have to pay for the license still?
I don't think. It can't be because Ubisoft just had to take their Tetris games off digital stuff because their license ran out. So yeah, it is not public domain.
Yep, someone owns it still. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Fire Emblem Three Houses, which was supposed to be the focus of the Direct. At least that's how Nintendo had built it.
Vincent's saying that a couple single-player modes have been data mined.
Okay, they're going to be there.
Including a Tetris 99 mode versus bots and a traditional marathon mode.
Oh, good. Well, there you go. That's good news.
So clearly they're not done.
All right. Fire Emblem Three Houses is what Nintendo marketed the Direct as being all about. And to be fair, it did seem to have the most amount of time.
It had the biggest chunk, I think. Yeah.
Allotted to it. We had only seen this game once before in a trailer. And the trailer was not especially convincing. However...
Well, I liked the trailer because it indicated you'd have like kind of a Dragon Force style army guys with you, and this went into that a little bit.
I was speaking more visually. The game didn't look particularly good.
It's Fire Emblem.
But now, I mean, it's got a complete overhaul. It looks like a completely different game now, particularly when in engine during battles. What struck you the most about what they showed about Three Houses?
It was boring.
It was boring.
But look, I don't care about your history lesson, guys. Like I get it. Like that's part of the Fire Emblem thing. Is like what world is it? What's the conflict? Where are the kingdom? I just way too long of like a monotone narrator kind of telling me all this stuff about these different countries. I don't care. Show me the game. Show me the gameplay. Also, the thing like you're kind of at like 3 rival schools. Like that's you pick. It's very Trails of Cold Steel.
Yeah.
The Legends of Heroes thing.
Which is a franchise you guys should check out if you like turn-based RPGs.
Yeah, those games are long but good.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like okay, I'm like, so now here we are. This is the Fire Emblem I know. Choose between a guy in armor and a girl kind of in armor, but also randomly showing her navel because why not? And so, I mean, there's tons of backstory in this, but like I did like what I saw. I mean, this is probably my top anticipated Switch game for the year.
Wow.
Just because I like Fire Emblem so much. I do kind of wish Fire Emblem hadn't gone so crazy. Like so, they starting with I guess Awakening, they started to lean real hard into the anime.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of the brand now.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Between the mobile stuff and everything.
But it looks real good. It definitely doesn't look like another 3DS Fire Emblem.
Nope.
Both in terms of kind of the presentational quality and the visuals of the in-game stuff. So I was glad to see that. You don't need to sell me on this game too much, really. Also, there's a little Harry Potter going on here, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
So you
know what you're getting with this. It's a known quantity.
Yeah,
and now you're seeing the production values. To me, the production values have gone through the roof since the first time they showed this game. Now, like the in-game visuals have like a cell-shaded look to them.
It's been a long time since we saw a console Fire Emblem.
It is, yeah. It's been a while.
The Wii, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the last one.
Radiant Dawn or whatever.
Radiant
Dawn. I can never remember which one's the Wii and which one's the GameCube because they continue off each other.
Oh, that's true.
Because one of them is Radiant Dawn and the other is something else.
I think Radiant Dawn's the Wii game.
Maybe. I don't think it matters.
But this is the one franchise you kind of, what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG. And both you and I are big fans of the franchise, and so this is just a no-brainer. Basically, when it comes out, we're gonna play it.
Yeah.
Intelligent Systems is making it. Until they hand it over to another developer, then I'll be concerned.
Yeah.
As long as Intelligent Systems is making their games, I'm in, I'm there. But yeah, you can see here, like, the battle visuals are so much better. I don't know if you remember, but like the first trailer they showed that.
Also, there is nothing quite like a pencil skirt for when you have to fight melee combat in a battlefield. That is,
well, that's the anime roots shining through there. But it looks good, I think. I mean, it's definitely not going to win Best Graphics of 2019, but it looks way better than it did when it was first shown. And graphics are probably the least of my concerns with this franchise. I mean, I've been playing it in handhelds for how long now?
I mean,
so
it's doing a pretty good job. I mean, I always felt like the switch to polygonal characters sort of lost some of Fire Emblem's personality.
It's charm.
The charm was some of that kind of hand animated 2D, sprite work especially with the horses and the with the lance and they look really
great.
Cool.
Yeah, the animations.
But I think they're capturing that. You're getting character and personality out of all these attacks, even in 3D. It's not kind of that eye bleedingly like kind of like thing that the old the Wii game had. I liked the GameCube and the Wii game. It just they were not lookers for even for their time.
Yeah.
This one looks like it's at the very least on par with the other stuff coming out this year on the system.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then
it's interesting how, like, even with sort of the weakish hardware of the Switch, if you know the capabilities and you pick a solid clean art style, you can make it look great.
You can.
They did that with Mario, they did it with Zelda, they're doing it with this. They do it with the Yoshi game coming up.
Zelda at times looks a little.
Zelda's a little rough in places. I mean,
because some of the areas are so barren and just don't have a lot of objects in them.
But the art style works for it.
Yeah.
Mario.
When everything's in tight and its characters and things like that, it's great.
But I like the kind of the house style of just sort of make it clean, make it simple, make it pop.
That's also how they make it run well.
Yeah. Which is important.
It is important. Yeah. Not so much with Fire Emblem, but with
I dig it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we're both down with that one. Yep.
Put that pre-order up for the collector's edition. Let's do it.
Yep. Up next, another surprise, completely unannounced before the Direct, Astral Chain, a new game from Platinum, but it literally has like an all-star team working on it. They have people from Nier Automata working on it. Kamiya's working on it.
Yep.
It's literally just a who's who of Japanese game development that's working on this game.
It's basically a character action dream team game.
Yeah, and we've heard that before. And these games don't.
That doesn't always work out. Sometimes these guys don't seem to work well together.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. It's like you put a bunch of geniuses together. You don't always get a genius product.
No, well, genius also tends to come with ego.
Yep, absolutely. And with ego comes arguments.
Yes.
What do you think of this, Matt? It's obviously a Platinum hack and slash.
Yep, that's what I think. I'd like to see more of it. I like kind of the cyberpunky versus demons thing in general. At first, I thought this might be is this Shin Megami Tensei?
Yeah.
I was like,
when they first started showing it, because they don't tell you what it is till the end.
No.
And I was like, holy cow, they really changed it.
And at a certain point, I'm like, okay, this can't be because I don't recognize any of the monsters.
Right.
But it was cool. I'm interested to see how kind of the dual, clearly it works with double characters and you do kind of have a persona thing going on where you got
it's that dog-looking thing.
The kind of the tech monster thing that comes out, and then the characters have this chain they connect to and trip people up with and tie them up with and stuff. I mean, it's Platinum, so you know that there's going to be some crazy, interesting combat system that is going to take you 3 hours to even get a basic grasp on, and you're finally going to figure out I've been playing it wrong this whole time, and that kind of thing. It also seems to be sort of an olive branch in exchange, because immediately after they ran this, they're like, Bayonetta 3 is being worked on. It's like Bayonetta 3 is a ways off, so please be excited.
This is coming this year.
Yeah.
In August, I think.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's
all
crazy.
these games we're talking about are
It's
coming
also crazy
this year.
that they could keep it quiet that long.
Yeah.
You know, like it's all these huge names working on it. A big Platinum's been quiet for a long time.
And it's so far away. It's so close. They've been working
Yeah.
on it for so long.
And like just they kept that as a tight ship.
The other thing I like about this game too, even though we know very little about it right now, the sidekick, the dog, you can do all kinds of different things with the dog. So you can let it fight alongside you. You can let it be a support to you. Or you can let it go fight and just throw it items to support it. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you work with kind of the sidekick creature, whatever the heck it is. It's like a dog something. I don't know what it is. Like a robot wolf maybe. But I like that idea. I like that concept. And like you said, because Platinum is developing it, I have faith that things that you hear about will actually work mechanically ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, Platinum doesn't always hit it out of the park, but it seems to really depend on the director.
Yeah. Well,
and
this is Kamiya.
This is Kamiya. I mean, it's yeah. This is the A-list making this game, clearly.
And obviously, Nier Automata has been a huge sleeper hit.
Yeah.
And so when you say, hey, a guy that worked on that's working on this, it's like a nice dog whistle for the people who really connected with Automata. So
Yeah, not a dog whistle, it's a flare.
yeah, it really is, yeah.
Come on over, boys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't like the art. I guess I'll say that. It's very typical Japanese action game, but the creature design is what I don't like.
You don't like the creature
No,
design?
I don't. I hate it.
It's a little Guyver-ish.
It's just not appealing, and to me, in really any way. It doesn't seem like the creatures fit with the universe of the game.
Well, that might be part of the plot.
Oh,
Like,
that's true. That's a good point.
Invading monsters.
Well,
from another
that
world.
is what the plot is. So there's like rifts have opened up, and the creatures are pouring in from the. How many games have that set up?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a strange rift is open to a new world.
The old
and,
Pacific Rim thing.
Yep. So the idea is that you have to fight back the creatures and close the rifts and return serenity to your city or whatever.
So it's Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Like I said, the setup is used lots and lots throughout video games. Intriguing. I'm excited for this game. Probably one of the more
Excited to pick litter up as a dog in a dog costume.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Certainly one of the more interesting games I feel like that was shown in this direct.
Yeah, it was a good surprise.
Yeah.
The pedigree is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, into it. Looks good. I hope it runs well.
Yeah.
Because
the game we're going to talk about in a minute.
yeah, there's another game I was looking forward to that disappointed me in that regard.
Okay, the next game, I have problems pronouncing this. Oninaki.
Oninaki, yeah.
Oninaki,
Yeah.
which is coming from Tokyo RPG Factory, which is living up to its name.
Yes.
Holy
yes, it is.
crap, that studio is turning out games like it's nothing. The twist with Oninaki...
Factory is the key word there.
Yeah, it is. The twist with Oninaki, though, is it's an action RPG. It's more like Diablo than what you've come to expect from them. So I Am Setsuna, Lost Sphere, those are the first two games the studio made, and those were turn-based RPGs.
Yeah.
This one is like an isometric hack and slash.
Yeah. It's a different move, but I like it. And also, like, the director on this is Takashi Tokita. He directed Parasite Eve and Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
So you again, we have another pedigree situation here.
I mean, the first two games that this studio made were good.
Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously we didn't get a whole lot of information here. Like, it's just sort of a little teaser. But because of who's making it and because of sort of the look of it, and I don't know, for some reason I love the sword sounds in this game.
Yeah.
Like, there's a shing to them that I think is really, like, chunky and cool.
One thing we should mention, this is not a Switch exclusive. This is coming to every platform, but was unveiled during the direct.
Yeah, I do like a good world shifting game. It looks like you jump from like kind of ghost world to real world in this. This has my attention. Like, I don't know if I'll get it on the Switch. We'll see.
Did you finish either of the two prior games that this studio made?
I finished I Am Setsuna.
Did you?
What was the other one?
Lost Sphere.
I didn't play that.
Okay. I did not finish either one of them.
I liked it. I liked I Am Setsuna.
I liked it. I could tell it was their first game.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The production values on this are far and away the best that this studio's
Definitely.
made. Not even
also,
close.
I am much more of an action RPG gets my attention. Hack and slash action RPG gets my attention much faster than turn-based. So,
yeah, I'd agree with that too.
Depending on the series.
One thing the studio does great is art. they have a house style.
Yes.
I could tell that this is their game. Like, even if you look at I Am Setsuna, the first game, you can see a similar art style between the two projects.
As soon as you see the Cupid doll with the bladed instrument, you're kind of like, okay, I know where we are.
But this could be a surprise hit later in the year, coming for all platforms. But an auspicious debut for that, I believe. Next up is a game that's been shown several times, and that game is also being developed outside of Nintendo by Marvelous. It's called Daemon Cross Machina, and
Cross, is that what they're saying?
I mean, that's usually what they say in Japan. Yeah. Anytime there's an X, they call it Cross. But
yeah, but I think or key.
Yeah.
If they stylize it as a Greek letter.
Right.
I've been assuming it's Demon Ex Machina because of the Deus Ex Machina reference.
It's possible.
But who can tell until someone says the name.
This game is under development by Marvelous, which does not have a great pedigree, since that's kind of the recurring theme in this section of the show.
It's a slightly ironic name
in
some ways. But I find most of them, most of Marvelous's stuff, even if it's sort of janky, tends to have a charm.
It has a style to it.
Yeah.
Marvelous typically makes a ton of turn-based RPGs. And then they'll make those, and then they'll create spin-offs of those franchises in other genres. That's typically how Marvelous operates. This, they're just going straight, they're cutting straight to the chase, and it's a full-on...
Straight to the action mech game Armored Core ripoff.
Yeah, and so this game, actually, the big announcement for this during the Direct was that there was a free demo up on the eShop, and I promptly went and downloaded it and played it. That's what you're seeing right now. Matt, you also downloaded and played it, which really surprised me, I have to admit. I never dreamed...
There's a giant robot in it, I'll play it.
How did you feel about this game after playing it? The first time, it wasn't playable at E3.
Right.
They played it on the Treehouse stream, but we couldn't play it.
As an Armored Core fan, I like what they're doing. I can see kind of being like digging into it in terms of the customization, in terms of going out and doing the missions and the side. There's a lot in here that I like. My problem is it runs like crap.
Yeah.
The performance is just awful, and
Marvelous.
The frame rate tanks if you look at it wrong.
Marvelous.
There's giant robots called Immortals that they're like as big as a building, and when they show up, you're talking I think the frame rate might drop into the teens. I was thinking when I was playing it, I was like, maybe I was too hard on Anthem.
Well, look at this. Looks like Anthem. When it first starts and the one robot takes off.
And the thing for me, I guess the areas are fairly large, but there's not really anything happening in this game that feels like it should be chugging that bad.
This level is the size of one city block.
It's a little in terms of kind of scale and scope, it feels a little PlayStation 2-ish.
Yes, absolutely. It feels like it might have been a project that was a hangover from that era.
And I don't necessarily mean that to insult it. I kind of enjoy some of the throwback elements of it as someone who played all 12 or whatever frickin' Armored Core. There are a lot of Armored Core games. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I did. I do know that. Yeah.
But when I cataloged all my physical games, and the Armored Core section is a whole page. They made so many of those games, and then they stopped. They just stopped. I don't get it.
So it is a mech combat game.
Yeah.
And it's mostly projectile combat. There is melee, but
there's
mostly...
swords and shield. The Gundam fans have something to deal with, but if you're not shooting at stuff, you're going to have a hard time, probably.
Everything is auto-lock.
Yes.
There is a manual aim, and I tried to use it, and it's a complete and utter disaster.
No, I don't. There's no reason for that. There ain't no need for that. Basically.
But you can see here what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get it to lock on, and it won't lock onto the enemy.
Because he's behind the little ridge on the thing. You have to boost up.
But so I tried to use the stick to fine adjust it, and it just is all over the place.
That's a non-starter.
Yeah.
Just use the boost to take off and come at him from
and
above.
Just get close enough to him so the lock-on works.
Yeah, there's no finesse, at least in the demo. Maybe later in the game you have items that take advantage of that, but I did not find any need to do anything more than just sort of hover above stuff and lock onto it.
Yeah, it's a very simple game. It seems to be the most strategy comes in when you're choosing your loadout before your mission.
Loadout seems important.
Yeah.
Making sure you keep your ammo up and keeping an eye on your health can drop pretty fast if you're not paying attention and not keeping on the move. But there are these little I guess almost like a little tank, like tanker truck looking things. You can like open up and it creates like a field that lets like just regenerate your health.
It's like a dome that'll regenerate your health and protect you. Yeah.
I mean, I like in general just sort of like giant mechs locking onto things and firing like micro missiles at them and stuff. So I was into it.
It's satisfying. Definitely the lock-on missiles feel good when you fire them and they land.
Yeah, and you got to run around and make sure you keep your ammo up because there's limited ammo and everything. I thought it was funny that like several of the skills that you could acquire were centered around reloading quicker.
Yeah,
that is an actual concern, which is a very Armored Core thing. Is when your weapons are ready. So I dig. I mean, look, if it ran at a steady 30, I would be like done. Like I'm gonna order this. Like I'm into it. I like it. It's a niche product, but I think it's cool. I'm so let down by the frame rate. And because like I was trying to lock on to start like pass my reticle over like bits of the giant immortal things, and I was missing what I was trying to like point at because the frame rate would chug and it would kind of skip. And
right.
It was like,
I don't know if that's the skipping though, Matt. I think it's the stick because it has one of those, and I hate this in every game that uses it, where if you hold the stick at first, it tracks very slowly. But then it has like this, almost like a gyro thing where like the longer you hold it, the faster then it whips.
This was like pretty small moves.
Okay.
It was the frame rate was messing me up. Like it was definitely like I know what you mean. Like it has that sort of like
momentum based like.
Well, I think that's intentional in this game because
I'm sure it is.
Even when you're just moving around on the ground, like you start pretty slow and then you start to kind of skate.
Yeah.
Like I think there's sort of an element of like kind of rev up that they're trying to make the mechs in this feel. I don't remember what the official name of the mechs are in this. There's some specific name. I can't keep all this. Is it a javelin or a suit or a doll or a pat labor or I don't know. Like it's a mech. So like, but I was just like my experience was being hampered by the performance, and I was like, why would you release a demo that does that? Because all you're doing is making me very unhappy and concerned. So I'm gonna have to sit back and sort of wait and see on what the final product, because like it comes out in July, right?
Yeah.
So it's like how old is this build? You're in an Anthem situation again. How old is this build? How much improvement is there going to be in the final build? How much improvement could there be in the time between when you did this demo and when because demos do tend to be older builds than what we're working on right now. This thing could be 6 months old for all we know.
Yep.
I mean, for all we know, this could have been what they wanted to show at E3 and it wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
It could be really ancient. But I don't know if they did themselves any favors releasing a demo that chugs like this.
I don't like it at all, I'll be honest. I was pretty excited for this game after E3. And again, this was based upon a Treehouse demo and some trailers. I liked the look of the game. I liked the concept of the game. Now that I've played it, I just don't enjoy playing it. It's all like auto lock. It doesn't take a whole lot of skill. Maybe later on. I don't know how you can ever really incorporate skill into a game where everything just automatically locks on. It's like managing how often you fire each weapon.
I mean, it's not too far off of Ace Combat. I mean,
yeah.
He was locking. It's a matter of prioritizing stuff, being on the move enough that no one can hit you, and not using up all your resources too fast and having enough left over for anything weird that could happen. Because that was one of the things they definitely did as you moved on. Like, there was always there's usually an unexpected thing. I mean, I know that usually doesn't make sense with unexpected there, but these games like to do the thing where it's like, all right, we're going out to do this thing. We did the thing. The thing is done. We're awesome. Wait a minute, what's that on the scanner? It's like it's that thing. That kind of thing happens a lot.
To me, this game has like a 6 or 7 out of 10 written all over it.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but it's like if you're into this sort of thing, if you're into the Armored Core thing,
it's
like
still worth buying.
It scratches an itch that like nothing else is scratching. Right?
And you can see like they've kind of cut corners here. Like the cinemas, some of the cinemas are just text bubbles, which you typically don't see.
Fully voiced though.
Yeah, it is fully voiced. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, depending on what you think about current dubbing techniques.
I mean, here's the funny part.
They didn't get Troy Baker for this one. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The funny part is when I first saw this game, I actually pegged it right. And then as time went on, I started warming up to it and liking it. And now that I've played it, it actually is exactly what I thought it was the first time I saw it.
Yeah, this is pretty much exactly what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing. If it wasn't chugging so hard in the frame rate department, especially considering what it looks like, I would be much more enthusiastic.
Yeah, you don't see worlds that barren in 2019 very often.
Yeah, with and still running sub 30 is weird.
I mean, you feel like you can almost actually count the polygons.
And I'm pretty. This is exclusive.
It is. Yeah.
So it's not like you're gonna be able to get it better on another platform. So
this is all we're gonna get.
This is what it turns out to be. That's a shame.
But that is one thing that they
maybe it'll run better in handheld mode. I don't know.
Well, I mean, generally frame rate is something that can be fixed even up to the last minute. So yeah. I wouldn't completely doom the game if that's your big issue with it. I think that is
definitely my big issue.
Yeah, I think they can definitely get that up to scratch for you. I'm not saying 60, but I think
I
solid
don't expect
30.
60. I just steady.
Yeah, I think a solid 30. They'll probably reach that. I don't think Nintendo will release it if it doesn't.
You don't?
No. Even a game that's made out of house. I just don't see Nintendo allowing that. So we'll see, but...
Is that a new thing? Because I remember Turok.
That is a new thing. You got to remember, Turok was one of the first ever 3D games. I mean, if you want to go back to the N64, you can go on and on. You can go back to Banjo, all the Rare games. All their frame rates were terrible, and Nintendo was like, hey, it's our first 3D game. Let's just get it out
anything using the expansion pack.
Yeah.
It was a slideshow.
Pretty much, yeah. Even with the expansion pack, it was a slideshow. I think developers relied on that more than they should have.
Yeah.
I think they thought that extra 4 gigs of RAM was going to do a lot more than it actually did. Well, it wasn't even 4 gigs, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was
4 megabytes.
It was megs.
Yeah, 4 megs. Yeah. Okay, just to wrap up the direct, there was a couple smaller things. Matt kind of talked about some of the third-party stuff. There was Marvel. They showed new Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. That's also coming out this year. That's being developed by Platinum, right?
Yeah. Is it?
With Team Ninja.
Yeah.
In association with Team Ninja. So they showed a new trailer of that. We're not seeing it right now. This is the one the debut trailer.
They showed Iron Fist and Captain Marvel. Those are the two reveals.
With obviously Captain Marvel's movies coming out, it was pretty good timing for that. But it looks fine.
Yeah,
this is one of those games you're not gonna have a good idea of how good it's gonna be till you play it.
Yeah,
you're just not.
Especially because they got the remasters of the old ones up, and I played those, and it's that's not really very fun anymore, is it?
I didn't find it fun way back when they came out either.
So I'm interested to see kind of what they do with this to make it more of a, I don't know, something that doesn't feel quite so old and static and rigid. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yep. I'm
just interested. I'll be interested to see if they can make the characters feel like themselves. You know what I mean? Will playing Wolverine feel like playing Wolverine, or will it just feel like playing the same character who happens to have a slashy attack?
Right? Is it going to be just palette swaps? And
pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much what the old ones were to some degree. It's nobody felt particularly different from one another.
Yeah. So we'll see on that one. Captain Toad Treasure Tractor, the Switch version, is getting a major update. They're adding cooperative play for the whole game. You get to play with a friend through the whole thing. They're also adding 18 new challenges across 5 different boards. So they're not letting Captain Toad die. They're keeping it going. And this is probably one of the easiest games to create DLC for because every level is discrete. It doesn't have to have any connection to any of the other levels. They don't have to make sense going together. The base game is all over the map as far as art style and things like that. So they could keep creating new levels for this forever.
Yep.
And hopefully they do, because it's a great game.
It's another example of what they brought from the Wii U is pretty much the same thing that was on the Wii U, but they've started to make it its own.
Yeah.
And give it the life that it deserved to have. Because again, I think a lot of good stuff on the Wii U got cut short.
Absolutely. This is one of the better examples of that, I think.
This is not my thing, but I'm glad they didn't just leave it in the dustbin. Yeah.
I enjoy it. Will I go play DLC for it? Probably not.
It's a little pricey.
Yeah.
The season pass was a little pricey.
Yeah. This franchise though has hardcore fans. The people that like this love it. The very few people are going to meet that are kind of lukewarm on it.
Well, I mean, there's not much else like it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, it's really a puzzle game.
That counts for something.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final thing, at least that I felt was worth mentioning from the Direct, is Assassin's Creed 3 coming to Switch, which was rumored for days and days leading up to the Direct. We did not get a Metroid Prime Trilogy announcement. Instead, we got Assassin's Creed 3, which y'all knew about, which also was already available for Wii U and looked better on Wii U.
Oddly enough, and it's getting a remaster on every platform.
Yeah, that's not exclusive to Switch.
2 months before the Switch version comes out, and the Switch version does not appear to have shadows.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing, I think, shown, was the Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It looked
particularly
bad.
after the Wii U version was pretty good.
Yeah, the Wii U version was at least on par with like the PS3 version.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
It was not good, and also Dead by Daylight.
Yeah,
that looked awful.
It did.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, visuals are not exactly the end all be all for that game. The point is to play the game. But like it looked. There was some PlayStation 2 texture stuff going on there. It was very muddy. The lighting was turned down to nothing. It's clearly like it felt like you just turned everything down to low settings and
just
said,
go. There you go. Yeah.
Hellblade had a little bit of
yeah.
It was a little softened in terms of its.
I'm okay. I mean, it's Switch. There's only so much you can do with the hardware.
Yeah, but it's just like.
But you can also tell when developers are being lazy.
Yeah.
That's the danger with becoming the hot new platform, though. Everybody just wants to get their stuff on.
Well, see, I don't know if I'd call that lazy development. I'd call it lazy publishing, because it
takes two to tango.
The developers can only do what they've given the money and time to do, and the publisher's the one that calls that shot.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to call them lazy for like being told you got to cram this thing onto the Switch and you have this many months to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do to get your job done.
I guess. I don't know. Dead by Daylight looked real bad, man.
It did. Like
if you're the developer there, you have to push back and be like, no, one, we're not showing it like this, and two, we're definitely not releasing it like this.
Well, I'm assuming I don't know who developed that, but I bet it was a contract thing, or just
I mean that developer is the same. They're the same guys that did what's the choose your own horror game for PS4?
Until Dawn?
Yeah, is it the same studio?
Dead by Daylight?
Yeah.
No.
Or did they do Friday the 13th?
No, Dead by Daylight's a very different. Dead by Daylight's a competitor to Friday the 13th.
Yeah, they did another game though. That's not like their only game.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either. But that's it. That's it for the Direct. I mean, I thought that was an amazing Direct. For February 2019.
I mean, you didn't really need Metroid Prime Trilogy.
You didn't. I mean, it would have just been an afterthought in this.
Yeah.
And like you said, when we first started talking about it, there's all these other big games that are supposed to come out this year that we didn't see at all. So this is a really good sign. Like, the Switch's 2019 is looking like when we get to the end of the year and we award Best Platform, it's going to have a shot this year.
Might, especially if Sony doesn't put anything else out.
I mean, it's going to have a good shot. And like the last couple years, like it wasn't even in consideration. Like I thought about it the first year just because 2 excellent games in 1 year with Zelda and Mario. It's like, okay, I need to think about it. But then you started looking at like the other platforms. You're like, okay, they had like 20. Last year, I didn't even consider it for Best Platform of the Year. If the schedule that Nintendo has proposed right now holds true for the rest of the year, it's going to be tough to beat for 2019, as it should be. This is the Switch's groove. This is the sweet spot for the Switch.
Well, presumably
all the other guys are fading, starting to mix down for the inevitable build for the next platforms.
Well,
this is the heyday of Switch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I think Microsoft might have some stuff for the latter half of the year. Sony's the big question mark. Sony's the you put all those exclusive things they talked about last year out this year, you've got a strong contender. But we don't know anything.
Well, I mean, you could put out Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
That's an amazing year.
But we might get nothing.
We might get nothing. We could get all 3.
But traditionally, Sony does not put out their first-party stuff as their holiday releases.
Yeah.
So it would be out of character to get those games this year, I think.
It would be. Absolutely. I mean, Switch got the inside line right now.
Yeah, especially if they get Animal Crossing out.
They get Animal Crossing out. They get Pokemon.
I know people
Pokemon.
People don't get excited about Animal Crossing. I certainly don't, because I don't feel like I never, ever need to do that to myself again. But Animal Crossing is like their number 4 franchise.
It's huge.
It's like Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Animal Crossing, Splatoon in terms of sales numbers.
Yeah.
Like those are your big 5 Nintendo franchises right now.
Yeah, it's not Metroid
in 2019. Oh, and it's never been. It's never been Metroid. But like people don't seem to. It's like if you're just looking at sales numbers and what routinely tops the charts for Nintendo, Animal Crossing is a monster.
Mario Kart. People don't realize how Mario Kart sells. I mean,
I'm including that with
seller.
Mario.
Yeah.
Again, Mario as a brand is just Santa Claus.
It is. Yeah.
Santa Claus and Ronald McDonald.
License to print money.
Level.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, 2019 is looking real good for Switch. And maybe it didn't hit its financial target this year, but maybe when they set the one for next year, they'll actually hit it.
Well, I bet they hit their financial target for software sales.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I imagine they're going to do even better this year because there's going to be a lot more to buy.
I think they'll sell more hardware this year. I think they'll sell more software this year.
They might. We'll see what that revision looks like.
Yeah.
Which
if
I know it doesn't exist, but like, come on.
Yeah. So there you go.
Should be an interesting E3 if they're willing to kind of blow all this up now.
Yeah.
That means that's a confident.
That's a
company.
Good point. Because it's hard to believe we're like 4 months away from E3.
Yeah. 4 months out from E3, and you're going to show us all that? Like,
yeah.
What do you got for
impressive.
June?
Yeah, exactly.
That means the back half of their year is probably pretty stacked.
Yeah, it does mean that. So looking good for Nintendo. That is one of the best early year directs I can remember.
Yeah.
Now the 3DS is out of the way.
It was way better than the Switch reveal.
Yeah, definitely. That's true.
Nobody played anything on a rooftop.
Yeah.
It was great.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about Activision and Activision's layoffs, but I have a feeling that that's going to dovetail out into a bigger discussion on development and the industry and huge corporations kind of taking over gaming. But if you missed a story, this week, Activision reported what its CEO said was some of the best financials ever.
They said the best financials.
The best, yes.
Record.
Bobby Kotick was like, it's the best financials we've ever reported, and they laid off 800 people.
Yep. I think it was the problem with the stock shareholders was I think it was something like 2.4 billion in revenue, which is like the most ever, but their forecast was 3 billion.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you set a new record, if you fall short of your estimates, the shareholders are going to freak out. Because reality is stupid, but like
because the stock market is stupid.
It's all crazy. It's that infinite growth myth. It's that thing where it's like you can't just like have a successful company that makes this amount of profit and people who invest in it make this amount of dividend out of it. It has to infinitely get bigger and better.
It's the day traders. It's the day traders that are killing it for everybody.
Well, it's also the people investing in tech who saw everybody that invested in tech in the late 90s and 2000s get rich off of Apple and all that stuff, and now they think it's their turn. So that's what's demanded. Venture capital people do that to me. Even if there's no shareholding, like kind of IPO, you get that from VC people too, where like they're like, well, what's Patreon's going through that right now. We talked about that last week, where it's like, why are they doing all these why do they have all these people there developing these new elements to the website that have nothing to do with what anyone who uses Patreon wants? Because you have to show the venture capital people that you're doing something to value add. You have to show the people that are throwing millions of dollars at you, what are you doing to plus it? That's what that's the terminology in the meetings they have, I'm sure.
I think what a lot of people don't get, who maybe don't know anything about stocks or maybe just have a 401k or whatever, I think what they don't get is that when a stock price goes down, that is essentially the company's value going down. So they basically calculate a company's valuation based upon how many stocks are out there and what the stock price is. And if you have a big sell-off, literally, like, you could lose half of your company's value in like a week. And that is actually what's happened to Activision Blizzard in the last 12 months. It has lost half of its valuation. So this isn't like, okay, they announced layoffs and they beat their targets and then their stock fell. It's been falling for quite a while. And it's been because of mismanagement between all the So I think the clearest example of it is Destiny and Bungie. This huge investment, this huge announcement, it was supposed to shepherd Activision Blizzard into this new frontier, and 2 games later, it's done. And the company's off making money for somebody else. Call of Duty, still doing good, but it's not doing well enough to pull the whole cart anymore. Blizzard, can you think of anything good that's happened with Blizzard since they were merged with Activision?
When did they merge with Activision?
5 years ago?
I thought they've been merged with Activision for a long time.
Maybe it has been like 7 years. It's been a while.
Well, Overwatch was kind of a hit.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they haven't had hits.
Right.
I'm saying as a company, with a company culture, Can you see any positive influences that Activision has had on Blizzard?
Not beyond mostly leaving them alone.
We haven't seen increased output from Blizzard.
No.
If anything, it's gotten worse. They have no new games to release this year.
They put Diablo 3 on a bunch of stuff.
Right. Yeah. But that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're just distributing their content out to new platforms. They're not creating new products. How many rumors have we heard about this game or that game that's been under development at Blizzard and then it just gets canceled? Like, some of them have been pretty far along before they're finally canceled. And who knows where that's coming from? Is it coming from Blizzard? Is it coming from Activision?
Blizzard's
Based upon what's happened with
Blizzard's
Destiny,
always had a tendency to kind of, like, we're going to work on this thing. If it's not perfect, we're just going to
keep
away
working on it or walk away.
One of the, StarCraft
StarCraft
Ghost, they did both.
Right.
Project Titan, they did the latter, but then they took the meat of it and turned it into Overwatch.
Right.
Which is funny that then Project Titan became Overwatch, and then Titanfall 3 became Overwatch Battle Royale.
Yeah.
Apex Legends.
Yeah.
Don't put Titan in the name of things. I think that might be the lesson here.
It might be. But can you think of any way that Blizzard has improved since it became a part of Activision?
Like in terms of output, I don't know.
Or any way at all?
I think they make more money now.
Do they?
I think so. They're still pretty profitable. I mean, they don't make the money hand over fist in terms of the Warcraft subscriptions anymore, but I think they still do okay. I don't know. Blizzard's kind of a non-entity to me outside of Overwatch. Like, I haven't played World of Warcraft since Cataclysm. I played Diablo 3 when that came out, and then I played it when it came on the PS4, and that was enough. And nothing. I mean, StarCraft 2 was fine. Like, I don't know. Blizzard has not set my world on fire probably since I got real deep into World of Warcraft and Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King. I played Diablo 2 way too much in 2000, but that was 20 years ago. I don't know. Blizzard is not a tremendous entity in my gaming habits.
I've never been a huge Blizzard fan because typically there is RTS, MMOs, two of my least favorite genres. They are the best at making. I did like Overwatch. I didn't stick with it like a lot of people have, but I enjoyed the first couple months that I played it. But what's happening is you're starting to see the revenues from all these projects and these products start to dwindle. And Activision and Blizzard has nothing to put in their place.
They're definitely not in the position, because for a while there, Blizzard could do whatever they wanted because World of Warcraft made them so much money that they could,
It's kind of where Epic is right now with Fortnite.
Yeah, Epic could do anything they want right now because Fortnite is always going to pay for it.
Yep.
I think World of
I do the same thing with that title. I always do that.
Yeah, World of Warcraft. You can't have a lazy mouth when you say that game's name.
Nope.
It's obviously not the juggernaut it used to be, but I'm still
making money. It's generating profit. But so this goes back to what we're talking about the expectations of stockholders. It's not good enough to make enough money from World of Warcraft. It's not good enough that Overwatch is I'm guessing, third most played game in the world right now. It's not good enough. I don't think it's good enough for the stockholders. I don't think it's good enough for Bobby Kotick either.
Yeah, well, Bobby Kotick's only worth $7 billion. He's got to keep up.
I mean, he's the one that's driving the train. He's the one who's setting expectations for the company.
Well, so do you think, in light of what happened with all this, do you think does that give us some clarity on who told who to go away with the Destiny thing? Does this look more like Activision basically cut Bungie loose because they were not producing?
Look, when you have a contract like that, you have to have two to tango. You can't just say, we're kicking you off the contract. You have to agree to a settlement to dissolve the existing contract. So I don't think we can say it was just Activision, Blizzard kicking Bungie out.
But it does seem to me that,
the timing
is there, and also sort of, if you don't look stellar on our earnings call, we don't want you at all, sort of thing. I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but but it feels like that thing that sort of like with EA, where it's like, Battlefield 5 sold 7.3 million copies, and we consider it a sales disappointment. It's like, well, okay, at a certain point, you do it to yourself.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if Activision.
Meanwhile, Darksiders 3 is apparently successful.
Well, they sold 100,000 copies, and that's all they needed to sell.
Yeah.
So, but you're right.
There's something to be said about managing expectations.
We'll get to that part in a second. But I would not be surprised if Activision Blizzard went to Bungie and said, look, we're doing huge cuts in the next month, and you need to be a part of that. And I could see Bungie saying, you know what? This isn't what we signed up for. Can we work something out here? And then the two get together. Also, you got to keep in mind that in the eyes of the stockholders, Bungie wasn't all that great of a purchase because they were led to believe that Destiny and Destiny 2 and Destiny 3 were going to sell 15 million copies apiece. And instead they sold 8 to 10. That's 60% of what they expected. So stockholders are like,
I can see why you would, if all you knew was the people who made Halo are making these things for us.
Yep. And that's all they did know, most stockholders.
Yeah.
And so they're like, what? It only sold 8 million? Why are these other games over here selling 20, 30, 40 million? Isn't that why we got these guys?
Yeah, why didn't they make Overwatch?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Why aren't they the guys that made this game? Or why haven't they made the game that took over for Overwatch when it inevitably went through its curve and was on the downside of the curve? It's the other problem, too, is that Activision has painted itself into a corner where it doesn't do anything else. It has Blizzard's games, and it has Call of Duty. But all its other franchises that used to be there yearly, Tony Hawk, Guitar Hero, all that stuff, it's all gone. So now it's all Blizzard stuff that's going to keep them alive, and Call of Duty. And I think stockholders are starting to figure it out. They're like, wait a minute, we have Call of Duty and we have Blizzard, which puts out one game every 4 years.
I would definitely, if I were a major stockholder in Activision, I would definitely be a little concerned.
I would be selling my stock right now.
Well, it's the kind of that thing.
I'd get out as soon as I could.
They used to have a much more diverse
portfolio
catalog.
Yeah,
and over specializing you breed in weakness, as Major Kusanagi would say.
Yep.
And it feels like, okay, if you lose your dominance with COD, what is your company now?
Which is, it's slipping.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's
not selling like it used to.
I'm not predicting that Call of Duty is suddenly going to get knocked off the throne, but weirder things have happened in this industry.
I mean, it's kind of teetering there right now. It doesn't sell like it used to.
No, but anything can happen. I mean,
it wasn't the best-selling game of last year.
Yeah.
Think about that. And it was beaten by a game that was out for less time.
It got beaten by Cowboys.
Yeah. Think about that.
That's weird.
It is weird. And this year, you have Infinity Ward making the game, which have proven to be the worst Call of Duty games, without a doubt. Even Sledgehammer has become a better Call of Duty developer than Infinity Ward at this point. I mean, things are looking bleak.
I like their Infinity Ward's games better.
I liked the first two Modern Warfares were great.
Well, those are different people. So Modern Warfare 3, not good. But I like Infinite Warfare. I thought that was a really
that
good
was
game.
Great. It was a great campaign.
Just, it didn't sell.
Yeah,
which is the same thing as being terrible.
Right.
In this context.
It is the same thing. But Activision is kind of at this point where it doesn't have a lot of options left. And it's kind of shocking to me that
it's also put so many of these developers in the COD basket.
Right.
And you forget, all these companies, all these developers that used to make all these other games, like High Moon and all the...
Yeah.
They're all still there. They're just making
Call
Raven,
of Duty.
They're all making Call of Duty.
Yep.
And it's like... you're just a giant Call of Duty factory now, which I guess at the time was a safer bet, but it's getting to the point where maybe you need to start putting out things that aren't just Call of Duty.
Yep.
I mean,
but then they're going to look at it we'll sell 20 million of those. So
what are the Skylanders guys doing?
You don't want to make a Call of Duty games, I'll tell you that.
Maybe the Skylanders guys should make Call of Duty Landers.
Make a Toys to Life game on Call of Duty.
Oh, little toy soldiers.
That's when you know Activision has reached the end of the rope. But let's talk a little bit more about the personal angle of this. 800 people lost their jobs, and our friends have been very, very lucky. All our friends that work at Blizzard have kept their jobs.
Well, most of the layoffs were they were administrative, more like structural things. They were. Now I don't agree with the kind of the people that's like, oh well, they weren't developers, so it doesn't matter.
No,
because
they're human beings.
They're human beings. Also, if you work at a game developer, you make video games.
Yeah.
I don't care if you just balance the books or you schedule.
You're a video game
schedule
developer.
The lunchtime, whatever
that's all
you do.
Part of the job.
It's part. The person who puts the food out also helped make the movie. The actors got to eat.
If they don't eat, they don't have a good take.
Someone had to feed Tom Cruise.
Together.
That matters.
Yeah, it
and
does
believe
matter.
me, Tom Cruise cares.
He does.
You think Tom Cruise cares that you pay $10 to see the movie more than the guy who gave him the good sandwich? No, he does not.
He likes the sandwich.
He liked that sandwich. He hung upside down for 4 hours, and then he got to have a nice sandwich. So yeah, I think that's a disingenuous take. It's like, oh well, they weren't real developers, so who cares?
No, that's bullcrap.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I do think it's not as connected to the success of things as people would like to think. Because if something is not performing, you have to restructure, and that's going to end up causing some job loss. That's a thing. And this is the time of year that happens. Like we've seen this over and over right around the midweek of February. Either Game Trailers goes away, or Machinima gets shut down, or this is where
it happens in all industries.
Yeah, because you want to make it look to the investors on that earnings call that look, we're doing it.
We understand.
We're
we know
making
you're
it happen.
And we're gonna do something to make you happy.
But when you're when you open that call with, we made more money than we ever have before, while the other hand is shoving 800
people out the door,
out the window. It's just that's a bad look. And then meanwhile, what was it? PC Gamer ran that article where it's PC Gamer,
Ubisoft
reports record profits, fires no one, kind of thing, doesn't lay off 800 people, and it's those two things are not necessarily one-to-one cause and effect, but there's an optics situation, and there's also sort of how did you get to that point situation?
Yeah.
It's I don't know specifically all the different people. Some of it was esports. I'm sure part of that was, they seem to be winding down the Heroes of the Storm thing.
Well, they're
to the point that I keep forgetting Heroes of the Storm is a thing.
I think they've just realized that it's never going to win.
Right.
They are putting out a new expansion for that, here in the next month.
But it seems they're not pushing it as an esport.
Yeah.
They're
Dude, there was a while where Heroes of the Storm had a new trailer every day. Every single day.
Wow.
Without fail. It boggled my mind that they could find stuff to make trailers about every day. And at a certain point, we were just I think we're just going to stop curating these because no one's watching and no one cared. And now here we are with it, teetering on.
So you throw all your eggs in the Overwatch League basket and see where you go.
It's not going to go very far. I mean, if there's one thing we know about esports right now, it's that people have not figured out how to adequately monetize them. As far as getting the money back that they're investing into it.
No one's figured that model out yet.
Nope. It's still a specter that people are trying to catch.
It's so weird to see. It's here's this thing that millions and millions of people are interested in and watch and spend their time on, and you can't figure out a way to squeeze money out of them. It's like the ultimate capitalism puzzle.
It really is.
It's how can we can't figure out how to properly exploit these people. There has to be a way.
Well, I think part of it is that the people are really savvy and smart, and they know when people are trying to swindle them. These kids have grown up with the internet since the day they were born. It's it showed up for me when I was 18 or 19 or something like that. These kids grew up with cell phones, grew up with the internet, grew up with apps,
and you don't
grew up with really shady marketing.
Well, and also being very there's an expectation that the younger kids have of how marketing works that I find fascinating. My niece, who's she's 10, and so she doesn't watch a lot of TV, but she watches streaming stuff and YouTube stuff and and sometimes ads come on, and she gets very annoyed when the ad is for something she already has.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm well, yeah, the ad is just trying to. She's well, why doesn't it know I have that? Why would it show me something I already have?
Meanwhile, that's something adults are complaining about.
I'm that is fascinating. That, I find that fucking amazing. It's
pretty weird.
I'm
yeah.
Because we just sat in front of the damn TV and it showed us all this stuff we didn't care about. We just sort of ignored it.
It's whatever.
And it's yeah, I don't care about it, but you know what? I can still sing you the frickin' Mask theme song, can I? And so so we were just having earworms injected for all these products we don't ever even care about. How if you watch a fucking Parquet commercial, margarine means more to you than the fact that was being advertised to you. You just remember those taglines. But here's this new generation that's everything I see and all my entertainment is custom designed to be what I care about, what I want, and what I'm interested in. Why aren't the ads that way too? And I'm
I'll say this.
So her problem is almost that the algorithms are not intrusive enough.
I know.
Like,
crazy.
why don't these companies have a detailed
list
spying
on me so
of everything I've ever purchased?
I will say this, like, you know how
fascinating. I think
crazy.
that is how you get to Cyberpunk 2077, people. Like, that is how that happens.
I will say this, like everybody, I've noticed it when you Google something, then all of a sudden ads for whatever you Google just start getting. And I mean, I've Googled stuff on my PC, and then had ads for what I Googled on my PC show up on my phone.
Yeah.
So everybody's kind of accepted that at this point. But I have also found, like your niece, that when I Google something and then I buy it, the ads keep coming.
Yes.
So, like, I got a new pair of Nike shoes, and I was Googling around looking for, like, the new shoes that I wanted to buy. And then I found them. I bought them from Nike.com. All good. And then for literally, I still, Facebook, everywhere, all I get is ads for Nike shoes. Mm-hmm. Still, months and months later.
Well, I still get stuff for...
like, I need to be able to tell Google, bought it.
Because I went looking for... I needed a dining room table and chairs, and I bought those. And I still get ads for... Like, how many of these do you think I need?
There needs to be some kind of a service that you can...
I'm good.
Where you can just click and say, bought it. Leave me the F alone. Like,
unsubscribe.
But your niece is like, no, I want that. That's what she wants because that's all she's known. And I think that's kind of the divide between our generations, I think, is that we look at advertising and marketing a lot differently than the younger audience do. And I think they're kind of at loggerheads with each other. And I think it's causing problems with companies trying to figure out, how do we do this?
To us, advertising is more or less an intrusion.
Yeah.
And to her, and I think a lot of, maybe a little older than her too, I think like maybe under 20s, it's interesting that like they seem to have maybe an element of the advertising where they don't understand why the advertising doesn't foster the same parasocial relationship that the YouTube or streaming people have. You know, like, because so much of their entertainment is based around sort of watching strangers act like they're your friends. Yeah. You know, or like, or you're in a friendly situation where they're opening a new toy, or they're streaming a game and you're sort of hanging out. There's that parasocial thing where like, you know, you don't, and that even happened when I was at a screening of a movie, and I saw a YouTuber I know. I watched the video reviews they do on movies, and I was like, oh, I should go say, and I'm like, what would I say to this person? Because
you don't know me, but I know you.
Yeah, you feel like you know them and you know their opinions on things, but to them, you're just like a rando.
Just anybody,
and it's like, well, no, I guess maybe I won't do that because that's strange. But like, I mean, because they're not really a celebrity, it's not an expectation we have of them.
Yeah.
But like, I can see with my niece and some other like, you know, teenagers that like some or you know, my older friends have, they have a weird frustration where advertising doesn't give that same parasocial sort of jolt, and they don't understand why the people who do ads don't do that.
Right.
And I'm like, because they haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's because to them it's like way more important that their favorite streamer says, I really like this gaming chair.
Right.
Like, that is going to sell them that Vertigear chair way faster than any number
ad.
of amazing, perfectly produced 30-second ads.
Yeah.
And so somewhere in there's the key to unlocking how that works in this new esports era. But I don't know what it is, and if anyone does know what it is, please start your own consulting business because you'll be very rich.
Very, very. I have people that are just starting to work in esports that reach out to me for like consulting.
This is the biggest puzzle box in marketing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just are, at this point they're just throwing it out to anyone. They're like, maybe somebody will come up with the magic bullet on how to monetize this stuff and make money, and it's not an easy nut to crack. Anyway, back to Activision and Blizzard. How do we avoid this, or can you avoid it? A lot of people are throwing out like unionization of developers.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. So the union thing on this, it would not have stopped the layoffs. At least I don't think they would have. The problem is that I think one of the reasons unions are brought up a lot on this particular news story is because we've known more or less that this was coming since about November.
Yeah.
Like somewhere right before Thanksgiving, like people were the rumors were, the word was that like, yeah, there's layoffs coming at Blizzard, like something's happening, the esports stuff is getting looked at, and no matter what the employees and people over there did, the company kept saying no, they denied it constantly. Of course, clearly they were denying something that was true. You know that's coming if you're in the upper echelons of a company. So the idea is that like a union or some kind of union-esque organization for the employees there would maybe not have been able to stop it, but they would have been able to maybe force a negotiation or force an admission, so that these people could have been, more forewarned and more prepared for what was about to happen. Which is to me, I think is a very fair thing to want to know that this is coming. If you're already planning it, it's not like we got fired 2 months before G4 ended. It's not like we stopped making our shows. Yeah. Like we still did our work. It's just like, but we knew 2 months ahead of time we got a plan for this, and we appreciated that.
Yeah. It makes a big difference.
And there's legal stuff that forces you to do a certain amount of like where as a company you have to treat the employee a certain way. But it's like there's no harm in that kind of transparency, especially in an industry as volatile as game development, where you might say you get laid off at Blizzard. Do you have to move to another city now? It's not like you can just. It's not like most industries you can get another job in that same field somewhere
working
nearby.
In our industry is really weird.
Like there's people I know who've traveled, other countries to find these.
I know.
And it's purely because they got laid off, and now I live in England. It's just like it's
when you talk with someone, or like I talked with my wife, and like potential places where you could ever live. Like I always have to think about, okay, well, is the industry there?
Yeah.
At all? And in most cities, no, it's not.
No, there are definite dead zones.
Yeah, I mean, most of the country is a dead zone.
I mean, LA kind of is.
I mean, at this point, it is.
Not for media so much, but like in terms of development, there's
games media it is. I mean, all that's left for games media here is us indie guys. Yeah. It is like us and Easy Allies and Cullen Moriarty. IGN has an office here. Most people don't realize that, but they do. They have an office here. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of media here. Games media, it's just people like us. There's not real big conglomerates. Like
now that Machinima's gone.
Machinima's gone too. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing. It's a wasteland here. And if you start thinking about like, okay, well, what cities do have the games industry? I mean, New York, kinda.
Yeah.
Like
not
Raleigh.
New York. New York has never been really. It's just Rockstar.
Rockstar. Raleigh, North Carolina, kinda.
Yeah, there's stuff there. Still.
But it's all here. It's all in California.
Yeah.
There's a little bit in Texas, a little bit in Seattle.
Game Informer's still in Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's true. The last gaming magazine.
The last up in the frozen north.
And you want to know why they are still surviving? It's because they're there.
Yeah.
Where the cost of living is dirt cheap, and they probably rent their office for like $1,000 a month. Like,
here's a question on that. So, okay, I don't think it's a crazy prediction to say that GameStop is going to be in Chapter 13 by the end of the year. Chapter 11.
End of the year, maybe not the end of the year, but soon.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Like it's coming.
Yeah.
What happens to Game Informer if GameStop goes down?
I honestly, I can't even comment on that because I have not been briefed on how its current situation works. If you were asked me this question 8 years ago, I'd have said the Game Informer would go away. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Like, Game Informer could have got to a place where it's weaned itself off, like that whole thing it had going on with GameStop. I don't know. So it's not really fair for me to comment on it. But 8 years ago, GameStop saved Game Informer. Right. I know that for a fact. So it's hard for me to think that all these years later, the situation has gotten better for a magazine, but it's possible. Mm-hmm. So I just don't feel comfortable commenting on it, but it's not good for Game Informer if GameStop goes away. That much I can definitely say.
Yeah.
But I think going back to what can be done to stop this. I mean, unionization. Most of the people that were laid off here weren't really developers. They were people who worked on the edges of the organizations. And one thing that they did say is that like this part of this restructuring is so that we can start making more games. So I don't know. I know. I'll say this: if I owned Activision Blizzard stock, I would sell it right now.
If not,
if
already.
You haven't already,
yeah.
I would sell it right now because it's not going up. A lot of people are very frustrated about Take-Two because Take-Two, Red Dead comes out, outsells Call of Duty. Definitely on a pathway to be one of the best-selling games of all time, just like GTA is. And the stock has gone down since Red Dead came out. And what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of times a product is baked into a stock price before that product launches. So the stockholders know it's coming. is well publicized. Obviously, Red Dead had been in development for like 8 years or whatever. A lot of times, the stock price when the product launches already has that value baked into it. And then when the product comes out, they're like, well, we're not going up from here. It's only going to go down. And that's when you start seeing people start selling off their stock. Even Take-Two has gone down since Red Dead came out. So I don't think there's any solution to the stock problem. There's no solution to mega corporations laying off people, even though they have great quarters. It's always going to happen because, as you were talking about, it's this insane demand for growth. Apple gets it worse than anyone. Apple does grow and does grow its revenue, but because they can't come up with another idea that's as mind-blowing as the iPhone, people are like, you're a disappointment. So a lot of it has to do with expectations.
So you've already sold phones to literally half the people on the planet. But now you need to do more. And it's like, what else is there to do?
So Apple, we need you to start breeding people so that you can create more people to sell your phones to. Right. I mean, that's the position that Apple's in right now, just to show you how ridiculous it gets. So the answer is, you don't sell to these giant corporations. You don't merge with them. You don't sign with them. Sometimes you can't stop it. There are hostile takeovers. They can come in, and if you're public, they can buy more than half of your stock and take control. But really, the idea is you need to stay independent. You need to stay private. And that's the only way you can avoid this stuff. Because if you're a part of corporate America, it's going to happen.
Or you get into kind of like Microsoft doesn't seem to have this sort of thing. Like,
corporate culture is a big part of it.
Corporate culture is different, but also like they don't seem to bow to the shareholders in the way
you're right.
some of these other companies do.
Well, it's like one of the questions on Pactor Factor, a recent episode that just went up on YouTube, was, is it smart to let fans tell you how to design your games? And Pactor was like, no, you should listen to them, and maybe one of them will come up with a genius idea. His example was the flashlight on the shotgun, which was a user-made mod in Doom 3 because you had a separate button for the light and for the gun, and it drove people crazy. And a customer was like, you know what? I'm just going to make a mod that just tapes the flashlight to the gun. Brilliant. So Pac's saying, listen to your fans, because they may come up with stuff like that. But when you're talking about like the machinations of how your finances work and your release schedules, or even just game development, what motivates people to spend money, you should not listen to them. And oh, wow. It was very interesting to watch the comments, because what you found is the older folks like us were like, absolutely, you are on the money. All the kids are like, you're insane. We're the ones that run this industry. Without us, you don't have a job. Like, they just went off the deep end because
the most important thing to learn about being a hardcore fan of something is that by being a hardcore fan of it, you do not matter anymore.
You do not matter. You are the given.
You are the given.
The given.
And there are not enough of you to matter.
Yep. Absolutely. But it was funny watching these kids lose their minds because they have been raised to think that their opinion on everything matters.
Well, of everything. Course. Everything in the world has a comment section and a like button now. So, of course, their opinion matters. What are you, crazy?
But it was interesting to watch, though. It was split right down the middle. Young kids, you're crazy. If you don't listen to your fans, you're going to fail. Older folks are like, oh my gosh, you've been making games for 20 years. You should listen to what you're saying.
Yeah. And most developers, maybe not most publishers, but most developers know a good idea when they see one.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes down to like kind of mod. Because that's what you see. A lot of big requests for things do get implemented later in DLC. I would say a lot of people that asked for it didn't deserve it, but Insomniac had that Raimi Spider-Man suit ready to go. I mean, it's not like they just started doing that when you first mentioned it, folks, but like they knew people wanted it and they delivered it, and maybe they were playing with people a little bit there, but that's okay. That's fine. Tons of games have been adding New Game Plus options because people request those, and that's a thing. But it's like, there's a weird kind of myopia on things like that within the community where like people are like, well, why don't they launch with New Game Plus? And it's like, because no one needs New Game Plus at launch.
You haven't finished the game.
Like, of all the features to add after release, that one makes the most sense because you still have to finish the game.
That's why it's called Plus.
Like, time is the most valuable resource you have in the run up to launching a game and polishing it and getting it ready.
End of story. In any walk of life, time is the most valuable commodity.
And if you don't have to spend time on something to get it out the door, you don't.
You don't.
And New Game Plus, by definition, you don't have to.
Exactly.
But you add it later, and it's a good reason to go back to a game and play it again and add some value. And But like you still see people who's like they want everything now. They don't want it in blah, blah, blah. Yeah, like I think there's a conversation to be had between the creative and the audience, and there's a limit to which you can take that feedback on board, because otherwise you're just making a thing for this tiny little group of people that may or may not have the ideas that are going to, and if you do listen to that tiny group of people and it gets away from you, you end up with Star Citizen.
Yeah. Here's one thing I would say is that
which just by the way announced tugboats. You can buy. I'm not kidding. You can buy a spaceship now in Star Citizen for $160, and its entire function is to tow damaged spaceships.
Ship.
Yes, and you can do that right now. But the caveat is the tugboat ship isn't in the game yet. Ships cannot be damaged to the point of not being able to run in the game. You can't tow things yet in the game, and there's no way to show someone where you are to go tug you in the game.
They just came up with an idea.
But you can spend $160 on it because the the hardcore group that loves that game and throws tons of the whales,
the Gibbons
have all desperately want, because there's the hardcore fan base of that game. What they want is tedium.
Well, they also want
tedium as
they also want the value of all this stuff that they've bought to go up.
Right.
And if it appears that the market is starting to get shaky and people aren't buying stuff anymore, that's where the value of all the stuff you've already bought starts to go down.
But the key is, like, what I'm saying is, like, if you look at, like, so people are very excited about this tugboat thing. You can for $600-something bucks, you can even get a fleet of them. So you can run like a towing service. So it's like, so imagine what that means, though. Imagine so now people want, it's like, oh, I really want to tow things. I'm like, cool, okay. Like, I mean, you really, that's what you want out of your space sim, okay. But like, so imagine if that's the game mechanic. So you're driving your space freighter or whatever, you get damaged, and all of a sudden your freighter can't run anymore. So you got to sit in the middle of you're adrift in space.
Yeah.
So you got to call a player-run towing service and wait for them to get to you and tow you.
This is why I play video games, to get away from this crap. Who wants to deal with a tow truck in a video game?
And we've seen what the size of the places and getting to places and warping. That's gonna take hours. So that's why it's like, otherwise we would end up doing things like that in games all the time, because like the people who want to disappear into these things are hardcore fans of things, come up with ideas like this, and if you listen too hard because they're the ones throwing $100 at you a day, this is what happens.
Yeah.
So yes, listen in moderation.
Here's the last thing I would say on this. We've reached an inflection point where we know this is going to happen. We've seen it at EA. It's closed countless studios. We're seeing it at Activision. We've seen it. It's how many publishers have we seen?
If you're at BioWare right now, you might want to be paying attention.
Yeah. So how many times have we seen just at almost every publisher, you finish a game, we're cutting 40% of the staff, literally like 2 days after it launches, 2 days after ship date. So developers know this now.
Yeah, it's part of the ebb and flow of the cycle.
It is a part of the job now. So if you want to take a job at a big studio, working for an EA, working for a Ubisoft, working for an Activision, go there, enjoy the higher salary you're probably going to get, enjoy the better benefits you're going to get, enjoy the paid leave when you have a kid while it lasts, but just know that you could lose your job pretty much any day. And if you want to avoid that, then you need to look for jobs with smaller companies that have better corporate culture and don't live or die based upon the stock price. And it's like, for the first few years this has been going on, I had a lot of sympathy for the developers, but now it's like, look, this isn't a secret anymore. This isn't the carpet getting yanked out from underneath you. This is what happens in game development when you work for a company that is publicly held. So I feel like we've given developers a long grace period, understandably, well-deserved, as they should, but now it's not a secret anymore. It's not a surprise anymore. You know what the risks are when you sign on with a huge corporation that it has $1 trillion valuation. You get the good stuff out of that, you get the benefits, you get the bonuses, you get all this, but there are bad sides to it too, and I think at a certain point, developers need to accept that there are good and bad at working for those companies and decide accordingly.
Well, the solution for several people I know in that regard has been to stop working in game development.
Yep. And that's a choice, too.
Because if you can do what you need to do to make games, you can also do what you need to do to make non-game software. Yep. And those industries tend to be a little more stable.
Oh, they're stable, and they probably pay more.
Yeah.
And you probably work 40 hours a week.
So the concern there is like, you're right, but at the same time, those practices, if they don't change, are chasing a lot of talent out of this industry.
Or they're chasing that talent to new corners of the industry, where at indie studios, I mean, we're seeing it. Look at how many indie studios have been started by people who used to work on Halo,
this is
or used
true,
to work on Assassin's Creed.
Like, or my caveat to that would be like, because we haven't really talked about a larger economic picture on this, and judging by a lot of the economic forecast stuff right now, the recession's coming.
Yeah.
Next year could be real unpretty, especially if you're looking at some of the warning markers that economists like to look at. And obviously, economist stuff is. There's a lot of guesswork.
Not absolute.
There's a lot of it. You never know. It's not the exact science economists would like you to think it is. I know that, but there's some stuff that's concerning, and I am concerned, curious, and a little terrified of if something as bad as, say, even the recession that was around when we were around
07.
Not even 07. I mean 2008 was bad. It was also a specific result of a certain thing. This is more of a general malaise setting in, which is more related to kind of the early 90s recession. Now, escapist entertainment tends to be pretty safe from that kind of a recession because people still will go see movies. They still want that. Like I know people I've seen.
That's when they start looking for value, and that's why
they've been concerned about maybe it's a bad time to launch a new system. It's like, well, no, because people will always prioritize.
Game sales didn't dip in 07 or 08 at all.
No,
because when you start to look at it, video games are a great entertainment value.
Right, but that's still going. That situation, that economic situation. What that effect will have on sort of that indie world where you're sort of existing game to game, day to day. That concerns me a little bit. So
well, the good news is a lot of these guys have deep pockets because they did work for these big publishers for a long time, and they did get those bonuses, and they did get those residuals. I mean, when you're the community manager at Activision and you're set for life because you were the community manager for a couple Call of Duty games, you can make a lot of money doing it. But the idea is you can't blow it all.
I bet the new community managers did not get that deal.
Oh, no. They did not get that deal, guaranteed. And he's complaining, too. Like, there was we're talking about Ryan Bowling, if you don't know. Ryan Bowling probably is the first recognizable community manager ever. He was kind of like the beginning of that job, really.
A little bit. I mean, he was certainly the one that made it into a thing that people wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was complaining recently because the games that he worked on are being re-released, and he's not getting residuals from those. Yeah. And meanwhile, for being a community manager at Activision, he made enough money that he started his own game development studio. And don't get me wrong, I love Ryan Bowling. He's a great guy. But holy cow, like that's one of those things where you just got to recognize that you were very lucky to be in the right time at the right place and just be like, I'm so glad I made what I did. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
Because that's the rumor. They said that there's going to be campaign in this year's Call of Duty, but the rumor going around is that it's the remastered Modern Warfare 2 and 3.
Oh.
I don't know if that's true.
He's going to be real salty then.
But that would line up with his thing of more residuals for Ryan.
Yeah, he's good.
Can you imagine if they had to pay? I mean, there is like an element of like if you made a hit game, you should probably get something later. But can you imagine if they had to pay residuals out to the entire 200-person dev team every time you never get a remaster? That would solve the remaster problem.
It would. That would be real quick. All right, we got to move on. But and look, I don't want to come off as not being sympathetic to the people who lost their jobs at Activision. I absolutely am. But I think we've kind of reached this turning point where, okay, yeah, that's really crappy, but now you kind of need to expect that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's just
a little bit. It's still sort of that imbalance thing where it's just like the guy who runs that company is worth $7 billion.
Oh, he makes like $100 million a year in salary, and then gets like a 40% bonus. And who knows all the other stuff that's going on? Like,
oh yeah,
I mean, it's insane. Like when I was at Viacom. And my guys, my junior guys, were making hardly anything. Like Patrick Morales and Daniel Bloodworth and all those guys, they came in at such a low salary because when I hired them, it was like GT was starting up, and like we had a ton of money, but they're like, look, the one thing we can't commit to is big salaries because that's forever. And so they're like, this is what you can start your guys at, period. And you can't get a penny more. So they all started really low. And it was just a fight for me every year to get any money for those guys. Any. I mean, they're making so little that if they get like the typical 3% raise, which is what most corporations just give as a cost of living raise, it's nothing. 3% of nothing is nothing. And so it was very hard for me as a manager to have to go and talk to them after I went to bat. And literally, I mean, I was like an asshole to a lot of people trying to get those guys raises all the time. And to have to go to them and say, man, I fought as hard as I could. This is what I got you. I know it's not much. I feel terrible about it. And then they would send me a link to like the CEO of Viacom, who just got a bonus for $40 million. And I'm asking for like a $2,000 a year raise for one of them, and I'm getting turned down. It's like, it's hard to rationalize. For any normal human being, it's hard to rationalize. But that's capitalism, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. That's America. It hasn't gotten any better, and it's probably only going to get worse, unfortunately. So, and that's kind of my point, which at this point, we kind of know what the expectations are. The developers know what the expectations are.
It's just frustrating to see a company like Activision that just is so, not just famous, it's infamous for not reinvesting in its own talent and its own people. And
they look at them all as interchangeable.
Constantly, all the time. And like that was, a lot of people I know who worked at Activision, they worked at Activision in part because it's so infamous as sort of a grind factory. That was a dance program on MTV. That's not the same. Grind was not what I was after there.
The show on SIFTD.
But like and it was also like the thing was like whatever you were doing, whatever your title was at Activision. At least this was true like 10 years ago. Whatever the title was, you were probably doing the job of the next title up.
I mean, I did that at Viacom.
But for the title below for that amount of pay. So it was kind of assumed, everyone else in the industry sort of assumed, like if you were this level producer
VP,
or whatever.
You're really an SVP.
Or if you were like.
If you're a director, you're really a VP.
If you were like a producer, you were a game director kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, or if you're associate producer, you were a project manager.
Yeah.
You were, so people would work there to get a certain level of title, and then they could go to any other company after they'd done one project on that title. They go to another company that would then give them a bump in title and a higher salary, and they'd be working at a better place. And so that was sort of the thing, was like you did your time at Activision to get a decent position at a company you wanted to work at.
The problem is it's not just Activision anymore. It's all of them.
Well, also the problem is that Activision used to have a diversity of portfolio that allowed people to do that, and now it's just if you're not on Call of Duty, you're not working at Activision, pretty much.
I mean, the truth of the matter is salaries haven't gone up at all.
No.
In years. Mm-hmm. Like, it's insane how no one in our country ever gets a raise. Ever. Mm-hmm. And the CEO just keeps taking all the extra money. It's mind-boggling. But anyway, we need to move on. We could get on to talk about capitalism for the next 4 hours.
But they're creating so much value for the shareholders.
For the shareholders.
Infinitely.
Yeah. And that's what they say, too.
Up and up and up.
For the shareholders.
Yep.
They don't care about anyone else. And that's the truth. And developers should know it by now. And it's like you said, take what you can from it and move along.
Yep.
That's what you should do. And developers should know that by now. So I don't...
Because you don't have
there
to
aren't many excuses.
I realize it's an economy of scale, but you don't have to run a game studio like that.
Yeah,
you could be Insomniac.
Yep, absolutely. There's lots of studios that run things the right way.
Oh yeah,
tons of them.
But again,
when
like
you're
you said,
owned by a huge corporation,
right, like you said,
that's when it all changes.
Insomniac's owned by Ted Price.
Yeah, it's
Insomniac is their own master.
Yep. And that's why Insomniac wins best place to work in the United States.
Continually one of the best small companies to work at in the not just for video games. All companies.
Period.
Like they win that pretty regularly. They got that multiple times.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our last topic of tonight's show. We're going to talk about the other big game that came out today, and that is Far Cry New Dawn. Matt, you've not played it at all because I told you not to.
But I have played other Far Cry games.
Right.
So and I feel like
you'll be able to discuss the game. I can tell you that right now. I have been playing it. I'm, I don't know, 8-10 hours into it, something like that. Which, based upon reports, it sounds like I'm more than halfway done, which is crazy for a Far Cry game, because most Far Cry games you can play literally for 30 or 40 hours. This one is a spin-off. I should start by saying that this game costs $40. It is not a full-price game. Mm-hmm. I was shocked to see that. I went on Amazon, and I was like, okay, it is priced lower.
Was Primal full price?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's not. It's $40. And I've not finished the game, but reports say it's around 13 to 15 hours long, which means I'm about halfway through the game. Not been getting great reviews. So when I was talking earlier about how if you keep releasing a game over and over, you kind of reach that saturation point, and I feel like, at least with video game critics and editors, that Far Cry is reaching that saturation point. That it's getting to a place where we're getting them too often, and people are starting to push back a little bit against it.
Yeah, well, it's almost yearly at this point.
It is almost a yearly frame. You know what, I thought that, though, Matt? And we went and looked, and typically it's like once every 2 to 3 years. I was surprised to see that.
Yeah,
this is kind of an anomaly coming so quickly.
Primal was a year after 4, wasn't it?
I think it was 2 years.
I want to say that. I think usually the
Primal
weird,
was a full game, though, also.
Yeah, but usually the weird spin-off that reuses the map of the numbered game is a year later, I think.
Yeah. Well, this does absolutely use the map from Far Cry 5.
Well, this is the first time they've reused the map without...
Pixel to pixel.
Well, no, they were pixel to pixel. Like, Primal is the map from Far Cry 4, period.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be the same place.
Got it.
It's another world.
Right.
This is the first time they've just been like, okay, we're not only reusing the map, we're reusing the setting.
Yeah.
This is the first time they've done that.
Yeah, and so it doesn't look the same, because you can even see in this trailer, and you'll see even more in the B-roll, that it's like a day-glow color palette. So Far Cry 5 obviously took place in Montana, out in the wilderness. It was all browns and greens and grays. For some reason, after the apocalypse, the most beautiful flowers have sprouted up from the ground, and the whole world is just covered in them.
Not every mutation is ugly, Shane.
Apparently not.
Primal was 1 year and 3 months after 4.
I figured it was a little closer to 2, but... So this is set 17 years after Far Cry 5. This is not even this happened yesterday, here's what happens today. This is 17 years after the end of Far Cry 5. For those of you who played Far Cry 5,
Wow, that was a hard hit there.
Yeah, I mean, it's Far Cry, so there's all kinds of weird physics stuff and things like that in the game. But this is at 17 years after. A lot of the characters from Far Cry 5 are nowhere to be found in this. The main bad guy is, and his organization has changed. It's not about murdering people anymore. It's about fostering peace. It's kind of turned all hippy-dippy. And in fact, there's even some self-referential voiceover in the game where they talk about the fact that, they just expect us to forget that they used to be murderers. But... For some reason, in the post-apocalypse, after the nuclear bomb that they were responsible for has dropped, people have forgiven them, and they've become like this hippie commune. The problem is there's this new group of people called the Highwaymen, and it's very easy to tell them because they all dress like motocross stars, and they all have day-glow paint spread out all over their armor, and they're all armored.
It's very considerate in open-world games when people dive out of the vehicle when you kill them.
Yeah.
So I just always appreciate that. It's just like, I'm dead. I better get out in case
my
somebody
last act
this.
is I'm going to open the door handle.
Just in case somebody needs this vehicle.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
But honestly, for the first 6 hours of the game, there is very little drawn between the two. They say it's 17 years after the nuclear apocalypse or whatever, but after that, they don't really mention anything that had to do with Far Cry 5 until the middle part of the game, and that's where you get introduced back to the bad guy from Far Cry 5, and you start to understand what they're doing. But for the first 7 hours of this game, there's very little parallels between the two games, other than that they say, let's go to Hope County, and Hope County was where the last game was set. But otherwise, all new characters, all new scenarios.
So
all
is the
new
whole
situation.
world nuked, or is it just this area?
They don't explain that.
No.
But I'm kind of shocked at how quickly the world has rebounded from a nuclear holocaust. I don't know how long it typically takes.
Clearly, a lot of auto mechanics survived.
Yeah. So, that's one of the big changes for the game. Is there's crafting just like there has been in prior games, but the crafting in this game is much more like I have a 2x4 and a metal tube and some gunpowder, and I'm going to make a gun out of this. It's a lot more about scrapping and things like that. Like the first gun that you actually craft in this is a crossbow that shoots saw blades.
All right, so it's like a YouTube video.
A little bit. Yeah.
It's like they don't have YouTube anymore, but if they did.
Like they do have real guns, but most of the stuff that you craft is stuff like that. Just these weird kind of contraption things that you just kind of put together with.
Yeah, I mean, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Like it's, we've had
the
plenty of real
awesome.
guns.
Yeah, the gun is awesome. Like the saw launcher is freaking amazing. And not only does it launch saw blades, it ricochets. So I've taken out like 4 enemies with one blade before, where it bounces off one, goes to another, and just does like pinball through all the enemies. And there's some strategy to it too. Like if an enemy is standing in front of a wall, instead of shooting the guy, you shoot the wall, and it bounces off the wall and comes off of him, and then keeps going and starts seeking out other enemies. So that's a change. The other most obvious change is that enemies now have the RPG bars above their heads. To make it seem like it's more of an RPG. But I'll be perfectly honest with you, it doesn't really play like it's any more of an RPG than Far Cry 5 did. It's really just more cosmetic than anything else.
Is there any element of like how the game plays that would demand that you know how much life your enemy has left?
Not really.
No,
no.
Because my solution to not having a life bar over enemies' heads tended to just be to shoot them in the head, because then they died.
Right. Well, the enemies in this are not bullet sponges. That's the other thing too. So it's not like a Destiny or an Anthem where you need to unload like 4 clips into somebody. That's the other thing that's weird.
Change, then.
It is weird because there's the bars above their heads. You wipe them out so fast, it's literally just a flash of the bar just disappearing. Like maybe later on, it gets a little more challenging. But one thing I've found about this game is the more I've played it, the easier it has got. It is not, at least so far, it has not been well balanced. The early parts of the game have proven to be the most challenging so far because you're working with crappy guns. Like, you have guns that are guns, but they all have iron sights, and they all have crazy recoil. And then the one special weapon that you build just fires a single saw blade, and it takes forever to reload. The game has become easier as I've played it, and you got better weapons, which, I don't know. I haven't finished it yet, so maybe it comes back around. Sometimes you have games that kind of give you peaks and valleys where it'll be like, okay, we're going to put you on easy street for the next hour. So maybe there's some other part of the game that you want to consume. You could do that without worrying about dying like every 5 minutes or whatever.
Just took some pills to counteract the explosion you were just in.
That's the health is handled with pills, and they're very slow because you actually take out a bottle and eat the pills, and you have to wait.
It looks like almost the same animation as taking the malaria pill in Far Cry 2.
It's kind of the same, yeah. And then...
Is this your blade crossbow?
Yep, this is it, yeah. So you can see that bounced off of that car, off of that cart, and killed him.
Can you dismember people?
I have not tried that, Matt. I've not tried shooting them in the leg and see if it chops off their leg. I always aim at the head because I just want to kill them.
How is that not the first thing you did?
What'd you say?
How is that not the first thing you did with a saw blade crossbow?
I'm terrible. I'm terrible for not trying to manipulate virtual people.
I thought you were a professional.
But otherwise, the structure's basically the same. There's little tweaks. So just like every other Far Cry, there are outposts. But the catch is the whole game is gated by ethanol.
What's that?
There's skunks.
Is that a boxcar? Oh, skunks.
It was a boxcar full of skunks.
A boxcar full of badgers.
Yeah, those were skunks.
Okay.
But the whole game is gated by ethanol. There's no gasoline left. So ethanol is what they use to power everything. So any big mission you accomplish, basically how big the mission is measured by how much ethanol you get. Because the ethanol is what's used to build out your homestead, which is called prosperity. And so what you do is... inside prosperity, there's basically places for health. There's a place where you can craft grenades. There's places where you can be better at craft. There's like different stations for each one. You have to level up those separate stations with the ethanol. And then once you level up enough of those stations, then the whole establishment levels up as a whole. And the catch is, while this game also has outposts, which has been a thing since like Assassin's Creed 3, was that the first Assassin's Creed to have outposts?
Like full forts?
Yeah. Well, they call them something different in every game, but
I guess. I mean, either that or maybe Revelations had something like that, like involved with like the tower defense, that crappy tower defense thing.
That's right. I forgot about that.
God, that game was bad.
Wait, that was 3, wasn't it? That had the tower defense.
No, that was Revelation.
Was it? Okay. So anyway, this also has
Revelation. Revelation was a terrible experience. It is eternally burned into my brain. I did not like that one at all.
Well, this also has outposts, and if you take down outposts, it works the same way as prior games, in that you've kind of taken over that area, and then you can fast travel to it, and all your people show up, and it's like a place where you can take resources, and they'll be counted across all the resources in the game. But the twist is, you can't get ethanol from taking an outpost, and like I said, ethanol gates the entire game. So to get ethanol from taking an outpost, you have to actually give the outpost back.
To the bad guys?
Yep, to the highwaymen.
Huh.
You give it back to them, you get ethanol, and then they come back into the camp stronger than they were before. And you could go back and attack it again and get more resources, but obviously it's more challenging.
Right. You think at a certain point they'd piece this scheme together.
Yeah, you would think so. But you know what? In order for me to upgrade prosperity as a whole for the first time, I had to give away my first fort. I could not find enough ethanol from doing normal missions to get where I needed to go. It's like they basically forced me to, hey, try this new system out. And I did. And when you go back the second time, it's not that much more difficult. And I have a feeling, because the game has become easier over time, I have a feeling that the more that I keep going back, the more I'm going to want to do it. Because it wasn't double the challenge when I went back the second time, but you did get like double the reward. So that's something that needs to be tweaked. The story, a lot of it has to do with children. So it's 17 years later. A lot of the people have now had kids, and the kids are 5, 6 years old. Some of them are teenagers. And it puts you in this awkward position of, hey, there are kids around. So if you've ever been someplace where there's something going down, something bad's happening, or someone's acting like an idiot, the one thing you can always say that'll calm people down is, there's kids around. And that's like that universal message of, you know what, I need to chill out. Well, they use that in this, but the bad guys don't care. In fact, the bad guys in this game use kids as pawns. So you meet them at the beginning, and they're the twins. The twins had a dad who used to rule with an iron fist. And I think that's part of an angle of the story, too, is how things are handed down from one generation to another. And so these twin sisters are basically the main antagonists throughout the entire game, and they're ruthless. They don't care about anything.
Is that a microtransaction?
Oh, yeah. So I'll get to that as well. So the twins use kids as leverage to get what they want. They'll kidnap kids and hold guns into their heads, or like pull the pin out of a grenade and hand it to a little kid. So in some ways, this game kind of has new territory as far as culturally, I think, using children as pawns.
Well, I mean, obviously that's a classic tactic, but like, it is interesting in an industry that always seems to shy away from violence against children. That they would step up to that, especially in this game. Like, this game is not what I would expect. I wouldn't expect it to be taking a lot of risks.
No, there's some heady stuff in this game. Like, I feel like this game is getting sold short a little bit, because it is kind of one of those things where it's like, well, we just played a Far Cry, and it was like 40 hours long. And I'm one of those people who just played a Far Cry that was like 40 hours long. But to me, there are enough tweaks in this game to give it its own flavor, but there are enough of the foundation is still there that it's familiar. So I feel like it's something that fans are going to like. Maybe they are a little burnt out on Far Cry right now. I don't know. Some are, some aren't. And I also feel like it changes enough to maybe make it appeal or not appeal to new folks. Like using the kids as the pawns thing is a little dicey. Like, I felt uncomfortable. Like, there's one scene where you get the kids back from the bad guys, and the animation of the adult woman hustling the kids back into the fort gave me chills. Like, whoever did the motion capture for that was a really good actor, because you could just see that is how a mother would be reacting if their kids had just been taken hostage. One of them was handed a grenade with the pin pulled out of it, and you're just trying to get them to safety as quickly as possible. So that struck home for me pretty hardcore. So I like the story. There's a bunch of ham-fisted crap in it, and a lot of lines that I've laughed at or rolled my eyes at. But overall, I like the plot, and I like the premise of it.
But you're not Kingdom Hearts skipping yet.
No, I haven't skipped any of the cinemas. And they're not like Kingdom Hearts where they happen every 3 seconds either. So yeah, I am consuming the plot, I guess, which I did not do with Kingdom Hearts. At least not all of it until the end. I did finish Kingdom Hearts 3, by the way. Did you?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, another big change for this Far Cry are things called expeditions. So you saw earlier, one of the stations in your homestead that you can unlock is a helicopter. And you may think, oh, the helicopter will just fly me wherever on the map I want. That's not what it's there for. It's for these things called expeditions. And basically what happens is you get in the helicopter, and he takes you to a point where you have to invade and find something that's usually shown by like a cloud of smoke or whatever. It's easy to find. But you have to infiltrate, get an item, get to an extraction point, and then wait for the helicopter to show up to get you out. It's a lot like the Dark Zone in The Division, except you're playing against AI. And you get big time rewards for that stuff. And the first one, even the very first one, you're seeing it right now. I don't know how you did this, Sam, but this is it. This is the very first one that you take part in. So see that big tanker back there? The start of the mission was land on the mountain, then you zip line down to the tanker. You get on the tanker, and you have to get the item from the tanker. It's just like a bag full of intel or whatever. And then you have to escape. So you escape off the tanker, you run down to what you're seeing right now, and there's a gun emplacement on the beach. And you have to sit there and basically survive a horde mode while you're waiting for the helicopter to show up. The rewards for these are huge. They're fun. They're different. Because they can take you someplace else because you're in a helicopter, it doesn't have to adhere to the level aesthetics that you're used to playing with. It's a nice respite from the rest of the game. And like I said, you get big time rewards for it. So I think that's a very successful addition. I think it's something you're going to end up seeing in every Far Cry going forward. And like I said, most importantly, it does provide a break, a change of pace from the grind of playing a Far Cry game. So, I don't know. I guess to sum it up, I'd say it's Far Cry, but maybe the story's a little more targeted towards adults and less towards like the 20, 30-something. Because if you don't care about what it's like to raise a kid or have someone who depends on you all the time, I could see where it might be hard to relate to the story a little bit.
Then again, most stories and games are about that now.
They are, yeah. Because you're seeing the developers getting older, and they have kids. So this is what resonates for them. And here you can see, like, this is after you come back from saving the kids for the first time, and it's a party. They're like, oh my gosh, we have these people who are helping us. The kids are safe, blah, blah, blah. And you basically just kick back and have a couple brews, and then the bad guys show up in the middle of your party. So
how rude.
How rude. The bad guys in this game, by the way, announce themselves with fireworks. Mm-hmm. They never just show up. Like, you see the fireworks in the sky first, and then there they are.
Another Fury Road
Not
reference.
worried about stealth all that much.
A little Fury Road on that one. That's good.
But I am enjoying this game. Apparently, it's going to end here pretty soon. I don't want it to end that quickly, which is a shame. But it's been priced at the right price point for a game that lasts 15 hours at $40. So I don't know. I've played the last 5 or 6 Far Cry. I played all the Far Cries. What am I talking about? I played them all. And so if anybody would be burned out, I should probably be someone who's burned out. I am enjoying playing this game. There they are. There's the fireworks. That lets you know the bad guys just showed up. So the reviews for this, holy cow, man. Some people have given it like 6.5, 7. That's way low based upon what I've played so far. It's not a 9, 9.5, 10 game, but it's easily an 8+. And I recommend it. At $40, AAA game, a little shorter. Some people may be happy to play a shorter game instead of having to play through a 40 or 50-hour experience. You can actually
Far Cry 5. I did like Far Cry 5, but I thought it was a little much.
It started getting repetitive. Yeah. And this game, it seems like it's going to wrap up just when you start to kind of get tired of stuff. So, I don't know. I recommend Far Cry New Dawn. I'm enjoying it. I've got a little bit farther to go. We'll probably talk about it again on the next GameFace, maybe once Matt's had a chance to play it as well. But I'm having fun with it, and I'm enjoying it. So, can take that for what it's worth. And it's time now for our trailer of the week. And it was funny. I chose a trailer of the week this week, and I was like, I think people are going to think that we're bought out by EA. Because I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, we've been featuring a lot of EA games for our trailers of the week. And in fact, Anthem has been our trailer of the week several times since it was announced. And unfortunately, here it is again. But this isn't just any trailer. This is a special trailer. You're probably going to have to help me pronounce this. This is a special trailer, a live-action trailer directed by Neil Blomkamp. Is that right? Blomkamp. I was close. There has been hype around this trailer generating for weeks and weeks. There was rumors circulating that he was doing it. Then 3 days ago, they released a teaser trailer. Everyone was like, hallelujah, it's happening. And then yesterday, they actually released a trailer. Let's roll it.
Long, long ago, we were the slaves of the Urgoth. And eventually, after much strife, we broke free. And so we made our walls high. And our convictions strong. There are many dangers. No one can survive out there on their own.
We found her last night in the jungle.
They said she must have been out there for years.
It's not possible. I always knew this day would come. A new beginning.
And we'll get your son back. You have my word.
And yet, new enemies would be forged. A line would be crossed. Things would never return to the way before.
Where?
Look deeper, and you will see visions, Kelly. Your history. Your future. A life unlived.
You backstabbing rat! You sold us out! I never should have trusted you! She's in the middle of it. It's not possible.
The anthem swims through your mind. It knows you. It knows us all.
So, Matt, that's the kind of marketing budget EA has for Anthem.
Hope it's worth it.
That's some high production value stuff right there, man.
It's weird that they would have shot all that for a trailer. I wonder if there's like a short film in the pipeline.
The rumor always was just a trailer.
That's a lot of work.
I know. Could you imagine being on that crew and working on all that stuff and then being like, we did this for a 3-minute video? Yeah. It's crazy. When you got that kind of scratch, though.
You got paid.
Yeah, oh yeah, you got paid. Absolutely. Pretty good. Does it make you more interested in the Anthem universe? Seeing that? No.
But like, who cares? Like, it's cool. It's neat. I'd probably like watch that short movie, short film. But like, okay. Like, it's neat.
Way to hype up our trailer of the week, Matt.
I don't know. It's a neat piece of work, but it's like I played the game and it's not like that.
Yeah.
Really.
It's definitely not like that. Definitely not. I did like that they tried to recreate some of the iconic scenes from the like the first trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise,
a big bad dude, and
it's a little.
Bad guy's armor is pretty cool. It's cool to see it
Yeah.
live action. I mean, I assume they hired a bunch of prop makers and cosplayers to kind of put all that together, and it looks great.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
Misrepresents the game maybe a little.
I do kind of wish they'd let him make Halo. seems like he would have done a good job.
Yeah. Oh well. All right, you got questions? I don't have my iPad tonight. My wife has been out of town the last couple of days on business, and she has the iPad, so I have to work with Matt tonight for our Q&A.
I'll start with W. Matthew. Do you think Apex Legends Titanfall Anthem?
No.
I think Anthem Titanfall Anthem. I think
they're way different games.
They are. I mean, I think he just means in terms of like
sales
proximity.
Yeah.
No, I think Anthem.
Mind share, all that.
I know EA is expecting Anthem to be like some kind of crazy Destiny or bigger sort of thing. I don't think they managed to penetrate the mind share with this thing. I don't hear anyone talking about it. I don't.
Yeah. I don't have people asking me questions about it.
None of my casual gaming friends who would normally be into stuff like that are asking me about it. Like,
yeah, me either.
It's oddly quiet for something that's a week out.
Yeah, they asked me about Mortal Kombat already.
Yeah,
funny how that works.
I've gotten questions about Mortal Kombat, and I got questions about Apex Legends.
Really?
But like,
yeah, none of them mentioned that.
Well, my answer was like, just download it.
Yeah, it's free.
What are you asking me for? Yeah, like no one's talking about Anthem other than my industry friends.
Yeah.
You know, but like,
I really loved it when I played it, but we'll see.
Yeah, we that was from last week. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna miss it completely because I'm out of town.
Oh, right.
For the whole launch weekend.
Right.
Although maybe that's good. Maybe I miss the.
Maybe you'll miss like the 2 days
the
where
Rocky
the servers
stuff,
are
and
funky.
By the time I get back, everything's gonna be patched.
It probably will be. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's. I don't know. We'll see. I think Anthem. I think there was a way to do Anthem in terms of like scale and expectation, tying in with that Activision conversation, where it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I think we're in another moment where EA thinks this thing needs to sell 10 million copies, and
I think it might eventually get to 10 million.
If you let it ride.
It's not going to
for a
happen
while.
in the first 3 months, though. I'll tell you that much. It's not going to sell like Battlefront did.
No, but I think you're in another situation with where Battlefield 5 sold 7 million copies and we're disappointed.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
I think they said they wanted to sell 4 to 6 million the first quarter. That's their goal. And I think they might hit that.
It's possible. I mean, I don't know.
I will say this, the open beta weekend, the one that you didn't get to play in, it seems like most people who played during that weekend really liked the game. Mm-hmm. And luckily, that was the open beta weekend.
Right.
Instead of the weekend that was private
Yeah,
VIP.
it definitely seems like the open beta was a better impression.
Better experience, yeah.
And, of course, the VIP early access went up 2 days ago.
Yep.
So I think that's if you're a subscriber to Origin, you get to start playing it.
I can't believe how many good games are coming out right now. It's crazy. Yeah. It's awesome. I love it, man. It's great to have a February where we're not scraping by trying to make shows. It's been awesome this year. See if we can keep it going.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nintendo keeps announcing games. It's just going to keep rocking all year.
I don't know. March and April don't have a ton.
Yeah, I've already looked ahead, and I'm like, okay, we're going to have to work for it a little bit the next couple of months, but we'll make it happen.
Majora Tom, do you think we ever see a gaming equivalent of Image Comics, i.e. a publisher who respects the contributions of its game developers where a game can be sold under the developer's name, similar to Kojima, and the developer would get a greater revenue share? Well, I'll tell you what, that's how EA started.
Yeah.
Like that was Electronic Arts and Activision early on. Like
Yeah.
they were developers specifically breaking away from Atari, which they felt was an abusive company in terms of.
And then they became what they hated.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, folks.
I love that line.
When EA started, that was the whole. That's why it's called Electronic Arts.
I know.
The whole thing was like, it's a group of artists making these things in the name of being. I mean,
but they were too good, and they got too big.
They flew too,
and now
too
there's
close to the
nobody
sun.
left there that was there when it started. That's how it goes.
They went off and did things like start 3DO.
Yeah. Man, talk about regrets. I had a fortune, and I just ruined it, wasted it all.
Gurzilla, When was the last time you picked up a game you'd taken a break from for several months or years, and what was that game? Example, last year I started The Witcher 3 again and finally finished it and loved it.
That's easy for me. Do you want to answer, though?
No, I got to think.
Okay. League of Legends. I have a love-hate relationship with League of Legends because I know I should not be playing it. So in my apartment complex, there are probably 20 people who work at Riot in our apartment complex. And there's the biggest apartment in our whole building is like a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom that's like right down the walkway from our apartment. And like when we walk out our door, they're right by the elevator, so we always see them. So we always see them going in and out. And we always talk. Like after a while, I told them, I'm like, oh, I run a gaming website. I've been in games. So now we're like friends or whatever. And every time I talk to them, they're like, are you playing? Because they know that I have a problem. Like I should not play League of Legends at all. Like no, I don't need to do it for coverage. There's nothing I can do with League of Legends that's going to help SIFTD or really help me. There's nothing I can do with that game that's going to help anyone but Riot, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'll stop. I'll stop playing it for months and months. And then there's just one day it'll just happen. I'm like, oh, I'll just play a game. And then it just starts all over again. And it's not even that I play it a lot. It's that I always think about wanting to play it. Mm-hmm. And like even when I'll have like a game, like a code that just came in, just like for an example, like Far Cry New Dawn. Like if I'm in one of those phases where I'm playing League of Legends, I'll seriously sit there and be like, I think I'd rather play League. Like it's just this thing that I have with this game, and I just can't ever seem to get past it. So that's my pick.
Mine would probably be back in 2008 when we staffed massively up for when X-Play went daily. We like doubled the staff, and then we also doubled the website staff. And all of a sudden we had a lot more people who played games because one of the reasons I was at that show back in the day was they didn't really have a lot of gamers. They had
TV producers.
And I knew enough about production and could pick it up that I was useful in terms of knowing the subject matter, but also because I could do the work.
Yep.
And when we expanded, suddenly we had a lot more. It was always like you and me and Adam and Morgan. Like they were all, we all played games, but like you're talking about like the majority of the staff didn't have like deep background kind of thing, right? And or if you're the hosts, you don't have time to sit around playing games at your desk.
Yeah.
But suddenly we had a lot more people from gaming backgrounds and things, and at some point talking about what we like, what we didn't like, and people were like, oh, I used to play fighting games on Dreamcast, and so I brought in my Dreamcast with all my import fighting games, which I hadn't touched in probably 5 or 6 years at that point.
Yeah.
And we all started playing Facino and Jose and Mr. Sark and all that. Like we started playing like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and all these like old Dreamcast
Soul
Capcom
Calibur.
fighters. Yeah. And there was a moment where I was like, yeah, fighting games are great. Like I haven't played fighting games in forever because they were kind of dormant for so long.
They did,
and like all of a sudden I was like, yeah, this is really good. And then like right after like 2 weeks later we got the first like preview build of Street Fighter 4 and
that was it.
We were given talkings to about like you guys have been in here all day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, the work's still getting done.
Those are the discussions I have with myself about League of Legends. I'm just like, Shane, you can't do it. You can't play.
So that was probably my favorite like return to something after years of non-activity was probably like coming back to fighting games in 2008. And then of course like it took off in the tournament scene, and I got sent to cover a bunch of these things. I got to know those guys, and it was great. But like, so yeah, I was probably the biggest. Like, I haven't done this in years. Oh wait, now it's a way of life. Kind of thing. It's like, so yeah.
Yeah, there's no good that comes out of me playing League of Legends.
Here's Commander Fett 03, which I really hope is not your birth year.
Well, it's possible.
It could be.
Yeah.
Do you think because of the success of Apex Legends and the layoffs at Activision Blizzard, will Activision make Call of Duty Blackout free to play?
Which was what Pac's been calling out to happen for the last like month and a half or whatever. Yes, I think it will happen.
Like just the Blackout mode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to.
It seems like the secret sauce to
I
being
mean,
the breakout BR hit.
I mean, they just did a free weekend of Blackout.
Yeah.
Like the weekend that Apex Legends comes out.
What's the cutoff where you can like do that safely without pissing off the people who paid full price for that mode?
Well, with Black Ops 4,
I know Packer talks about
it's
that
dicier
too,
because there's no campaign.
Yeah.
So if you have someone who doesn't care about zombies, this guy, and you bought it for Blackout, you're going to be pissed. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But with the next game coming from Infinity Ward, presumably Modern Warfare 4, which is a little weird to be, if you remember Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, now this would be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, which would be really weird, which makes me think they're not going to do that at all. But this game is going to have a campaign, and I think that they could get away with doing a free-to-play Battle Royale mode with that. But when you're charging people for it, and it's literally like half of or at least a third of the game, that's tough. Like I feel like you have to at least wait a year. So maybe the day that Modern Warfare 4 or whatever it's called launches, Blackout goes free to play. But I think that's the earliest you can do it and get away with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Lestived asks, how can we make you and Matt play classic games like Thief, The Dark Project? You can't make me do that. But you could make Shane do that by paying $100 on Patreon.
That's right. Yeah, you can actually. So I don't know if you guys have seen some of the new tiers and goals I worked on with you guys. Some of them I came up on my own, and some of them were a mashup of your ideas and my ideas. And one of the new tiers is You Own Me. And so it used to be Beat Shane, where you and I would play head-to-head for an hour. But the new tier, you can do whatever you want with me for an hour. You call the shots. You can play with me cooperatively. You can play against me. We can just chat. You can pick my brain on how to launch a product, anything. You basically, if you pay $100 a month, you get an hour of my time that month to do whatever you want, within reason, obviously. So that's a big change. So if you want to see me play games that you don't think I'll ever play, you can do it.
You get a bunch of rich dudes together and line up a bunch of them and just make you play Bloodborne for forever.
But that's the truth. Like, if one of you guys wants to see me play Bloodborne for an hour, I'll play it. Whatever you want me to do.
It's solid, wholesome, frustrating entertainment.
It's called You Own Me, so there you go.
Joaquim Dragon, have you ever played an anime licensed game and loved it, excluding Dragon Ball FighterZ? I like a lot of old Gundam games. I played Gundam.
Loved it, though, is the hard part for me.
I played Dynasty Warriors Gundam, the first Dynasty Warriors Gundam, for 70 hours, and I don't know why. I played that thing to full 100% completion, and I never got sick of it. And I also really love the old Federation versus Xeon games.
Yeah.
In fact, I had to buy a replacement of Federation versus Xeon because my cat threw up on it once. That's how much I cared about that game. I actually went out and replaced it because the cat threw up on it.
I don't think there has ever been an anime-based game that I loved. There's some that I've liked, like some of the early DBZ fighting games I liked, but now that's all been worn into the dirt.
I liked the Ghost in the Shell PS1 game a lot, which was not
I don't
really.
think I remember that.
You were entirely in the Fuchikoma tanks. It was like a skatey. It was almost Armored Core, and you could go up on the walls and on the ceiling and swing around.
I don't remember it.
It was good. It was shockingly good. It didn't have a lot to do with Ghost in the Shell in terms of the characters, but it focused on those six-legged tank things, and it was actually pretty solid for the time.
I'll say this though, if they made a good Akira game, yeah, I'm there. For whatever reason, they're making games out of the anime and manga that I don't care about. The stuff that I do like, I think there was an Akira game at one point.
There was an Akira game, I think, on on Famicom or something like that.
But I think there was one in development for GBA. I may even have a ROM of that.
Astro Boy Omega Factor for the GBA.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was
a great.
Yeah.
That was a treasure game. That was great.
Yeah. And wait, did Treasure go under?
No, Treasure's still around.
What are they making?
Nothing. It's one dude now, but
really?
they still exist. They're just sort of dormant.
I never even thought about it. What happened to Treasure?
Just sort of slowly collapsed.
That's a good idea for some YouTuber. What happened to Treasure?
Yeah. I don't know.
One of you guys. You make it. We'll curate it. Any other questions?
J Reed Vic 7 has repeatedly asked, How concerned, if at all, are you guys about the general state of console gaming heading into the next generation? From my perspective, more power hasn't been what's held back most games this generation, but rather that increasingly the risks and creativity required to make good and great games is being stifled to accommodate business considerations.
Yeah, it's all about money.
Why would that go down, not up, with more power and seemingly higher costs?
I'm not sure I understand the question. It's worded.
I think he's basically saying, will new systems with more power actually solve anything, or just make that kind of that expectation problem worse?
Well, Matt just talked about a game that he played on Xbox One X that did not run great. So if that's possible, yeah, they're always going to push the boundary. They're never going to say, hey, let's make this engine that will run at 500 frames per second on this hardware. They're always going to try to squeeze as much as they can out of it and try to find that happy balance between fidelity and how well it runs.
Same reason you're never going to see the majority of games on a system target 60 frames per second.
Right.
It's always going to be 30 with all the bells and whistles enabled.
Yeah, someone's going to do it. And I'm okay with that. As long as some games that need high frame rates concentrate on that. I'm not like a 60 frames per second snob. Like, I'm okay with 30 frames per second as long as it's
steady.
Solid.
Yeah,
it has to be.
Steady 30 is fine by me.
But they're always going to push the hardware. Yeah. They're always going to do it. And I prefer it that way. You need people pushing the boundaries to see what's possible. And some studios will do it, some won't. And I think there's a pretty good mix right now as far as which ones do and which ones don't.
Yeah, I mean, the new systems are coming because, I mean, you are starting to see the frayed edges on some of these projects.
Sure, yeah. Well, a lot of it, too, is that it's not new anymore. We're used to this level of fidelity and visuals at this point. Yeah. So a lot of it is perception, really.
And we'll see if it's really the changeover that other system launches and generational shifts have been. Like,
that's going to be the challenge.
Like, because it feels like the way they're moving, and we'll see. The guy who just got made head of Sony Interactive Entertainment is not a fan of backwards compatibility or crossplay. So it feels like we might end up taking steps backwards with that.
Well, they're picking and choosing who they work with on that already.
Yeah,
so.
But like, it seems to me like the moving forward. And Pactor's talked about it too. The idea of the cell phone model, where you're buying a better, bigger thing with a new number at the end of it, but it still plays the same stuff as the thing the previous one. And so the idea of okay, so the PlayStation 5 comes out, and you buy a PlayStation 5, you can play stuff that looks great. Ghost of Tsushima looks amazing, but the people who still own the PlayStation 4 have not been left in the dust. They can still play stuff. It's just not going to look as good. Like, and you sort of slowly make that shift. You sort of entice people into moving up there as a couple of years go by, and suddenly you start making games like, okay, well, this one's not going to run on PS4 because it has to be, optimized for PS5 or whatever, and that's how you slowly
Which is
get
all
people to move up there.
bullcrap.
Of course it is.
I think it's going to be a hard sell with PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2. They're going to be crazy expensive and they're going to blow people away, or they're going to be moderately priced and people are going to be like,
yeah.
It's one or the other. You can't have both. Right. You just can't. So, which would you prefer? Would you rather spend $600 or $700 on a console and know that it's actually a generational leap, or would you rather spend the typical $300 to $400 on a console and be squinting your eyes to see the difference between that and the console you last had? And I think it's going to be a problem. Like, I think the numbers that we've seen for console launches in the past, you're going to have to forget about those. I don't think we're ever going to see launches like that again.
I think you're definitely looking at a paradigm shift in a way that we have never seen in this part of the industry, in this aspect of the industry.
I mean, there's a reason why all these guys are figuring out streaming now, because they know what I just said is going to come true. It's going to be harder and harder to demonstrate why this new piece of, you're seeing it with the X. The X is not flying off store shelves. And the reason why is because I can see it. I come here and look at games on Matt's TV, and I'm like, that looks a lot better than that game looks on my television. Most people can't see it, and you can't convince them of it.
And now the sales on the Switch would indicate that a lot of people don't care.
Don't care. Yeah, so it's
Power has never won a generation.
Never.
Ever.
Nope. I guess you could argue the PS4 was more powerful than Xbox One.
Yeah, but I think the PS4's advantage was
that's not why it won.
It wasn't, it wasn't draconian, and it wasn't. Yeah. It worked better. It had the better exclusives.
It had the perfect storm.
With the hardcore audience, which is where a lot of the word of mouth comes and spreads out from there.
Yeah.
Like, Microsoft blew it.
Yep.
They blew it in a way that had never been blown before.
That I can't even fathom that they would
and
do.
Immediately after, Sony just came in and mic dropped them,
Yeah.
and that was the end of it. Like
Yeah.
it
won't be that easy this time, I don't think, though.
That's the biggest piece of owning at an E3 press conference duel since Sega announced the Saturn and Sony just got up and said $299.
Just sat down.
I mean, Sony's good at that.
Yeah.
when Sony's on, they're on. But when
Sony
turns into arrogant Sony, they go to cyber world.
Sony is the master of taking advantage of others' mistakes.
Yes. But they're certainly not averse to making their own.
I think it's going to be tougher this time. I think Microsoft
so.
won't make a stupid mistake.
And I think Microsoft, to some degree, is sitting back and seeing what Sony does.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody wants to be the first one in the pool.
It has the X out already.
Yeah.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, it really is like Xbox 2. The leap from Xbox One to Xbox One X, I guarantee you, is way bigger than the jump from Xbox One X is going to be to Xbox 2. Guaranteed. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I think one thing I do know is that I don't think any consoles are going to sell out of the gate like they have in the past. It's just not going to happen. And you may even get, like with Xbox, you may get an opportunity to not even have to buy a console at all.
I still just continued. I mean, I know the power thing is an issue because you're starting to hit the point where, like, these games are starting to struggle on even the X, and PlayStation Pro versions are showing marked, like even like Kingdom Hearts was, the X1 ran better, unless you force the 1080p thing on PlayStation 4, which at least you can do on PlayStation 4. You can't do that on the X.
Really? But, you can't play in 1080p if you want
no way to
on
force,
X?
As far as I can tell, there's no way to force a resolution choice.
Interesting.
On the Xbox One. But like
Xbox One X, you mean?
Either.
Oh.
But looking at, the Xbox One is not really, the vanilla is not trying to do a 4K.
Yeah, it's not even really trying to do 1080p most of the time.
The thing about it is, like, you look at the sales of the PlayStation 4, and it's like, do you need a PlayStation 5 yet? I would argue you can ride that thing for another couple of years.
Oh, easily, yeah. I mean, we're not going to see the next console till 2020, but, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a tough sell to the average consumer, man.
Yeah.
Really tough.
And I don't think anybody wants to be the first penguin on that.
And somebody asked Pac about, actually, a really good question, actually, about whether, because Nintendo is rooted in handhelds, if it has an advantage going forward. And Pac says no. I disagree with him. I absolutely think it has an advantage because a handheld is something you have to buy. And it's like, you can't, I guess you could stream on the go. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to stream games hardwired without them stuttering and being unplayable. Would I stream a game with my cell phone on 4G?
No, I mean, not like, I would, stuff like that is like for like emergencies.
5G still 2 years away at least.
Because like streaming games and stuff like that is still a, it's an entertainment thing, and like people have a higher standard for that to some degree in terms of reliability. I mean, I still see people, I have an app that like where people can stream like police activity if there's a crime in the neighborhood. But I don't expect that to be like, well, the resolution's kind of low, dude. Like, here we go. I mean, hell, when Pokemon Go first came out, was huge. I saw people streaming from a laptop in the park.
With their little hotspots.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But my point is that if you want to play Nintendo's games, you're going to have to play them on their hardware, so you can't play it on a cell phone unless they make a huge change, which they probably should. So you're going to have to buy Nintendo's hardware to play its games. If it makes a handheld, absolutely it gives Nintendo an advantage. Absolutely. Going forward. Mm-hmm. It makes you have to buy the hardware, which with the other guys, probably not going to be the case. Anything else?
No, not really.
All right, we're going to put the cap on GameFace 157. So stay tuned to our Twitter feed at SIFTD Games, and we'll keep you abreast of what's happening for the show for next week. If it works out that we can't coordinate things with Sam and Matt, I will do something. I'll do a grind. Maybe I'll do a Geif or something to make up for the lack of GameFace for next week. But stay tuned. We'll try to make it work if we can. I want to thank the people who tried to get on the stream last night. I tried to stream Far Cry New Dawn. And once again, Streamlabs OBS just completely crapped the bed, like 5 frames per second. The archive file that I recorded on my PC, the same. I don't know what's going on with that program. I need to find something else. But anyway, I apologize to those of you who joined the stream or like, what's going on? I tried to reload the stream a couple times. The second time it got to like 8 frames per second or something. I don't know what's going on. Every time I open that program, it does something different. But I'm going to get it sorted before we do another stream, and maybe it will be tomorrow. So keep an eye on your notifications. Keep an eye on our Twitter account. Maybe I'll try to jump in with some Far Cry tomorrow or something else. Folks watching on YouTube, folks listening on iTunes, help us out. You can subscribe for free via Twitch Prime. You can give us a free $2.50 every month. The instructions are below. If you're on iTunes, go to SIFTD. The instructions are everywhere. And we would appreciate it very much. But we'd appreciate even more if you guys would be gracious enough to actually kick into our Patreon at patreon.com/SIFTD. That's what really matters. The Twitch Prime money, we appreciate it, but it's very fluid. 1 month, it's one amount. 1 month, it's another amount. It's hard to count on. The one thing we can count on is our Patreon. So even $1 a month could make a huge difference for us. If all you guys gave us $1 a month, we could really do some amazing things. So thanks for considering it. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody on the stream. Thanks for everyone hanging out with us on a Friday night. GameFace is up and out.